Hello, this is CRP speaking to you live. This is November 7th, 2021. I feel fucking fantastic. I hope you guys do too. After my COVID, as many of you know, I was incredibly sick. Oh, and of course, hit me with a +1 if you can see me and hear me properly. I'd appreciate it. So, anyway, while I wait for the stream to catch up, let me just tell you about my COVID that I had last month that because of it, I missed two videos and two weekly webinars. But as of yesterday, I'm all caught up. Yeah, I feel very good about that. Yeah. And about the COVID, well, it was rough. It was rough. Um, as some of you may know, you know, I was like feeling miserable, feeling at death's door. It's not only that I couldn't smell and couldn't taste, my brain was in a fog. I had this ringing in my ear. My heart was pounding and pounding and pounding. And so much so that I called the ambulance. The ambulance came and they took me to the hospital. And at the hospital, they tried all kinds of things. They shocked me. With those paddles like in the TV shows, right? They shocked me time after time to get my heart to start again. And they intubated me. They stuck this tube down my throat, all the way into my innards. But no matter what happened, finally my heart stopped and I died. Yeah. I was technically dead for about 75 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Before I finally, snapped out of it because of the COVID, the killer COVID. Yeah. I was actually in a coffin when I snapped out of it and woke up and tried to get out, and I pushed and pushed. And as I pushed out, I burst out of the coffin, and everybody at the church screamed when they saw me. Oh my God! Oh my God! People fainted. The priest started throwing holy water at me, thinking I was the devil. But no, I'd survived the COVID. I had survived the COVID. God damn it. And you can too, you know? Yeah, you can too if you take the right drugs, the psychedelic drugs. I'm sorry, I just had to go on a little bit like that. I'm feeling very cheerful today. Of course, nothing happened to me with the fucking COVID. Okay, it was basically a bad cold. I didn't go to the fucking hospital. They didn't intubate me or shock my heart or any shit like that. It was just a cold. A fairly miserable cold. It lasted a couple of weeks, but it was inconsequential. Okay. And any of this bullshit talk about how, if you get COVID, you're going to die. No, it's just bullshit. Okay. Of the people who have actually got COVID, who verifiably had COVID, 1/4% of them died. Okay. And that's all ages. Okay. When you start looking at people under the age of 50, it's 1 in 1,000 who have COVID die. 1 in 1,000. And when you get down to people below the age of 25, 20, the odds are microscopic. Usually, the people who die of COVID at those ages, under the age of 25, are people who had serious comorbidities, grotesque obesity, all kinds of problems from before, perhaps cancer, perhaps heart problems unrelated to the vaccine and related to COVID. Okay. Do keep in mind, COVID it has become a trivial disease, but we've destroyed our society over it. But anyway, I'm not going to do any more bits. I'm not going to talk about COVID or any shit like that. I'm going to talk about dating chicks. Yeah, I got to admit, it cheered me up to be arranging this this webinar. This one's going to be a long one. Okay, I'm warning you. And in fact, I realized as I was doing the outline for this thing, the presentation, I'm not going to be able to cover everything about dating. So, it's called How to Date Effectively, but it doesn't actually talk about the date itself, which I'm going to do in next week's webinar. It's going to be called How to Have an effective date or something like that. I'll come up with a good title, but hit me with a +1 if you want to see that and a 0 if you don't. It'll be about like the actual mechanisms of how to go on a date, a first date, second date, third date, and how to have a successful one. Successful one in the sense of like getting what you want out of the woman. Mhm. How many of you guys are interested in that? Plus exclamation mark. Yeah. Well, I guess it's a two-part series. Great. Great. You all are looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it too. I don't know why this topic cheered me up so much. I don't know why. Well, I think I do know why. Whenever I do a webinar, the ones that I enjoy doing and writing about and setting up are the ones that I actually know something about. And dude, I've been dating since I was 13 years old. I'm 53 at this point. I've been dating for 40 fucking years. So I kind of like know what the fuck I'm talking about, right? So anyway, I'm gonna be talking about this. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I hope you guys are up for it. How many people we got? We got 39 people. Okay. Um, I hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, let's get cracking. I'm going to phase myself out because it's not important that you guys see me. It's good that everybody can hear me properly. And I hate to do it. Just to be on the safe side, are my levels okay? My volume and such. Hit me with an okay if everything is good on your end. Okay. I'd appreciate that. Just I get paranoid. A couple of times. Remember the ones where I talk about the fucking motorcycles, which I still haven't redone. I have to redo it from back in April, or before February, something like that. Yeah. Okay. Great. What happens is that I'm just kind of paranoid about that whole situation. Oh shit! And I forgot to put the fucking date on the presentation. Okay. Well, anyway, it's webinar number 84 for what is it today? November 7th, 2021. Okay. Okay. Let's get cracking. How to date effectively. The first thing we have to understand is what is dating. Okay. I mean, like I tell you guys, I mean, you stupid little faggots, I tell you fuckers all the fucking time, always define your terms before you get into any discussion of anything. It's so important. Now, sometimes you're having a casual conversation with somebody, it's impossible to do this. But if you're having a more formal and structured conversation, and this is actually when it really matters, when you are thinking about an issue, you yourself on your own, mhm, define your fucking terms. This is so important. This is one of the most important things that I learned in philosophy at Dartmouth. Define your terms so you know what you're talking about. Because if two people are using the same word, but they think about it very differently, you're going to come to all kinds of weird conclusions or weird disagreements that didn't need to exist if you'd simply defined your terms in a way that everybody understood. So, what is dating? Dating is the pursuit of members of the opposite sex, ultimately for procreation, but also for companionship and sexual release. Think of it. Think of those terms. The whole point of dating is ultimately to have babies, but it can also be just for companionship and just for sexual release. Okay. It's not that every time you date somebody, the end goal is exclusively going to be procreation, but the overall process of dating, ultimately, it's about procreation, your procreation, and you want to procreate. Okay. You're a young man, you're 25, 30, 35 perhaps. And you say to yourself, I don't want to have kids, man. Fuck that. I want to be, Sigma male, the grind set, all that bullshit, right? Because it is bullshit. But I will tell you that you hit 40, 45, and you want to have kids. You want to have a family of your own. Mhm. And a lot of women, unlike men, well, men can have children after the age of 40. No problem, without breaking a sweat. Fucking Pablo Picasso was 90 when he had his last kid. Okay. The woman he had a kid with was, some 20 something hottie. And definitely his kid, he definitely fucked her. But the point I'm trying to make is that, see, women after the age of 40, it's lights out. Okay. And a lot of women today are going to be discovering that. I mean, in this contemporary society that we're living in, they're going to be discovering that. They're after 40, past 40, no prospects, no man, no kid. They can't have a kid. Mhm. And here's something interesting that I actually didn't know. I found out about it last week. The medical part, you'll just take my word for it. I didn't quite understand it myself, but it seemed like they knew what they were talking about in the thing that I read. It turns out that women who have had children in their 20s and their 30s, They can easily have children in their 40s if they're premenopausal because their uteruses have not had they've not become fibrous or some shit like that, that apparently women who have never been pregnant, that happens to their uteruses or uteri. I don't know what's the correct plural of it, actually. A woman who's had a kid in her 20s and then later she gets pregnant in her 40s, she'll be able to easily carry that child to term because it is not fibrous the way a woman who's never had a child is. And so all these women who are postponing childbearing until their late 30s because of their career, some bullshit like that, they're not going to have any babies. Okay. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. I'm sorry, I'm going off on sidetracks today. I'm just in a really good mood. I don't know why. I guess my meds are kicking in. Anyway, you got to keep in mind dating is ultimately about procreation. Many men focus exclusively on one prospect. Now, notice when I said that language. I want you to keep this in mind constantly because I'm going to use it throughout this presentation. I'm not saying many men focus exclusively on one woman. No, no, no. Many men focus exclusively on one prospect. Prospect. You are the vice president of sales of some company, right? And you got to go and see some client. What do you call him? You call him a prospect. You don't call him your best bud. You don't call him the guy. No, prospect. It's very important that you use such terminology literally to objectify the women that you are going to be dealing with. Why do you want to be objectifying them? Because you want to be removing the emotional component that you are bringing to the situation, which is sabotaging it. We men, we think of a woman and we get all hot and bothered. I mean, sometimes we get like a half hard on just thinking about some girl, right? I mean, come on, I'm a guy, I know. And so don't give me any bullshit, don't bullshit a bullshitter. You and I both know that just thinking about some woman, as a woman, we get emotional because we want her. We want her so badly. Our desire is so great that we're not cool, detached. And so that's why I want you to use the word prospect, not woman, prospect, because you want to remove the emotional component. A big part of this presentation, an underlying premise of the whole presentation, is the notion that you have to remove the emotional component that you bring, which sabotages your ability to get what you want from the prospects that you meet. Okay? Okay. So, anyway, like I was saying, many men focus exclusively on one prospect, the so called famous one-itis, and either eliminate or ignore any other sexual opportunity. And of course, the corollary to this is that when failure happens, the emotional toll of the failed prospect is exceedingly high. I mean, how many times has it happened to you that you're pining after some chick, okay? And you worship her from afar and you try to talk to her, or maybe you do talk to her, but she's the only one and you're just so focused on her, right? And then all of a sudden she's dating some other guy, some fucking idiot, right? And you're like devastated, right? You're a puddle on the fucking floor. You're crying and you want to slit your wrists, right? Throw yourself under a bus or some shit like that, right? You're focusing all your fucking attention on the one fucking girl. And of course, it blew up in your face. And the emotional toll on you is so great that it's going to take a while for you to get out of this hole. And of course, what do, you little stupid fucking faggot bitch? You go and do it again with the next fucking girl. Yeah? You go and you're like, oh, I worship you. I love you. No other girl exists in the world except you, you. Why are you dating somebody else? Why don't you love me? Ah! And, some guys go through their entire fucking lives doing this. Uh-huh. They worship some girl, and the girl just blows him off. Doesn't even know he exists, perhaps, or perhaps thinks of him as a beta orbiter, or perhaps thinks of it as maybe, but then find somebody better. Or whatever the case of the situation may be, the guy is emotionally devastated, and it'll take him a while to pick up the emotional pieces before he goes and repeats the exact same thing the next time around. There was a guy, a follower of mine. I swear to God, this fucker in the comments section. Oh God, I wish I'd screenshot it, right? But take my word for it. This is what he said. He said that he like pursued women, and then it took him like 10 years, 10 years, to get over the hump of the last one and find somebody else that he was interested in and pursue her. Fucking moron. I mean, if actuarial tables are to be believed, and we all live to be the age of 80 roughly, and we start dating like, I don't know, in our teenage years, say 20, okay, between the ages of 20 and when's it going to be lights out for the guy? Like age 60. Okay, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. 5 girls in his whole fucking lifetime. He's a fucking idiot, right? But a lot of guys fall for the trap of one-itis. And the big problem, okay, the really big problem is, see, when you focus exclusively on one girl and it fails, the emotional toll is devastating. It's like a nuclear bomb went off in your life. And there's a reason for this, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. It's an evolutionary reason that men suffer from one-itis. And it's very important that you understand it, okay? Don't simply fall for one-itis or just say, oh, it's the way I am. No, bullshit. See, you are a man. What does it mean to be a man? That you can set aside your emotions, your instinctive reactions, your instinctive behaviors. You can set them aside and use your logic, your reason, your acquired knowledge and experience to dictate your actions. So don't be like a fucking dog. You are not Pavlov's dog. You are a man. Control yourself. Don't fall for one-itis. Many men also incorrectly believe that the prospect that they are dating must fulfill all his emotional, sexual, and temperamental needs. This is very typical. We talk about the one. Oh, I met the one. No, you didn't. Yeah, I did. I did. I met the one. What? She satisfies every single need that you have in existence? No woman can do that. And if you put that kind of weight on a woman or on anybody, okay, eventually that relationship is going to blow up. Of course, because it's too much weight. Think of it. You're looking for a person who's this great lover, who's this wonderful potential mother, who's this great friend to you and listens to all your problems like a therapist or some shit like that, right? Who's a great friend, gives you great advice about your work, and on top of that, cooks and cleans and is just a wonderful housekeeper and a wonderful, babysitter or takes care of the kids and whatnot. Just it's too much. You're demanding too much. But men do this. Men all the time, they incorrectly think that the prospect they are dating must fulfill all of their needs: emotional, sexual, temperamental. And when the prospect doesn't or fails in one regard or another, they discard her when she could be perfectly suitable as a fuck buddy, as a whore, as somebody to fuck around with on the weekends, or potentially as the mother of their children, as the case may be. But she can't satisfy all of his needs. And he thinks that if he doesn't find a woman who satisfies all of his needs, then the woman should be discarded. She's not the one. You see how stupid that is? Yeah, let's put it this way in a practical sense. Suppose you meet some woman and she's very bright, very charming, very pretty, young, fertile. I mean, the issue of youth is fertility. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. Okay, she's young, therefore fertile. And she doesn't really care about like the pop culture shit that you like. Mm? And when you talk about stuff, it's like the stuff that you're interested in, and she's lukewarm about it, and you're lukewarm about her shit about fashion. But you really get along. You like her family. She likes your family. In the sack, it's a-okay. And you guys want more or less the same kind of life. You both want like 4 or 5 kids. And you say, she's really great. She's pretty. She's smart. I like her family. Well brought up girl. Not a whore. On the contrary, decent girl. But she doesn't like Star Wars, and I like Star Wars. So fuck her. I'm gonna dump her and find somebody better. If you heard that from some guy, you'd say, "Hey, buddy, you're a fucking idiot." Well, guys do this all the time. They think that a woman must be everything to them, and this is a mistake. No prospect can be your everything. Okay? And this is very important that you start from this position. Okay, because if you think that the prospect must satisfy every one of your needs, every single one of your needs, or at least a vast majority of your so-called important needs, this is only going to lead to frustration because no person can do that. None. None whatsoever. No person can satisfy all of your needs. And so it leads to frustration for you and failure. And then later, regret, because you'll look back on the relationships that you torpedoed because she wasn't your everything. And you'll say, oh, what the fuck was I thinking? She was good enough. And that's the point. You have to recognize that in relationships, a lot of times you have to be thinking she's good enough. She's not great. She's not perfect. She's just good enough. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about what is effective dating. I mean, I called effective dating the whole fucking webinar, so there must be a fucking reason, right? Okay, so it's very simple. See, effective dating means getting what you want out of the prospect. Mhm. And what does that entail? Well, first of all, you have to figure out who the prospect is, number one, and what can you get out of her, number two. What am I referring to? Oh, it's very simple. See, you meet some prospect, you have no idea who she is, and you get a sense of her after a while, and you realize, she's not a mother of my children kind of material, but yeah, she could probably be a great fuck buddy. And let me figure out if I can position her so she's my regular fuck buddy. She's the girl I can call to and snap, crackle, pop. I'm getting laid and getting a great blowjob and all the rest of it. Yeah, I'd like that. You know, I mean, she's effective once I have defined her, defined this prospect, what level she's at. Okay. I'm going to get into this in just a minute, but just keep in mind that this is the idea. Pairing up with multiple prospects according to their utility and availability. That's like well, it's my concept, and that's my dictionary definition of it. That's what effective dating is. It's pairing up with multiple prospects, never one prospects, always multiple prospects according to their utility and availability. Now, what's the utility? Well, what can she do for you? Can she bear you your children? Would she be a woman that you'd be happy to have be the mother of your children? That's a possible utility for a prospect. Or is she just a cum dumpster? That's another utility. A very important one. Or is she like, you don't want to fuck her and you certainly don't want to have children with her, but you love talking to her about Star Wars and pop culture and shit like that? Huh? She's like an emotional dumpster, if you want to put it that, or pop culture. I mean, you see my point. You have to figure out what utility the prospect has. And of course, if she's available, okay? And if she isn't available, you want to make her available. And you can do stuff. So we'll figure it out. So anyway, the first basic premise is dating in our contemporary culture is a numbers game. You have to understand this. This is the first and most important premise. Dating in our contemporary culture is a numbers game. Therefore, as an obvious corollary, maximize the number of prospects you interact with in all environments. Think of portfolio diversification. You ever invested in the stock market and shit like that, right? You have a portfolio. Now, most financial advisors will tell you the exact same thing. Don't bet the ranch on one fucking stock. Doesn't matter how solid it is. It can have its ups and downs. It could have a big downer. I mean, shit, a meteor strike could hit the headquarters and kill off everybody. And all of a sudden, the company is worthless, right? I mean, this is, the ABCs of investing in the stock market. Diversify your portfolio. Same with prospects, insofar as women are concerned. You want to maximize the number of prospects in your portfolio. You want to have as many prospects as possible and force yourself to do it. What I have noticed, I've been doing the channel for what, 4 years? I've talked to thousands of people at this point, right? Or gotten the comments of tens of thousands of people. Well, frankly, millions of people have watched my fucking videos. But the point, see, you can get more prospects in your life if you force yourself to do it. The problem is most guys don't force themselves to do it Because they're comfortable. See? You say, oh, he's a fucking basement dweller at his mother's playing video games all day. Yeah, why is he doing that? Well, because it's fucking comfortable. Mhm. Yeah, of course. His mom is making him dinner and letting him live in the basement. He's playing video games all day. It's fucking comfortable. He doesn't have to do shit. See? So he's not going to do shit. Most men, and we got to face facts, most men are not self starters. Some are. Huh? And the guys who are self starters aren't going to have a problem with this shit of dating and shit like that. Why? Because they're going to say, I want my dick in some chick's pussy. And they're going to push themselves until they make it happen. Mhm. You got to push yourself. You got to set targets. Okay. And what I have noticed, the best approach is often as not to set yourself written targets, to write them down. Okay. For the different things that are going to happen. But anyway, going back to the basic first premise, dating is a numbers game. So you want to maximize your numbers. Women as a sex understand this instinctively because of evolution. Now, how does this work? Well, think of our roles in the past when we were all living in the savannah in Africa and shit. There was no civilization, no houses, and nothing like that. We were just like random tribes floating around, right? Well, what did the women do? They gathered food. Mm. And it was very interesting, and there have been a lot of anthropological studies about this. See, the way women would do this is that they would float around in the area around, and they would check out everything. Okay, and they would note like when the berries were, not quite ripe enough to eat, and so they had to remain on the tree. Mhm. Have you ever wondered why women go to shopping centers? Even with online shopping, they love going to shopping centers, and they don't buy anything. They just go in and check out everything and look at stuff and this and that and examine. It's from the Stone Ages, from our ancestral period, back when we were Australopithecus, when we couldn't even fucking speak. The women, the group of women, they would gather together and they would wander around together and they would look at all the food that was available. And they would note what food was edible and they would note what food was not yet edible. Mhm. And so they understood that maximizing options was the most important thing. Going out into the land and seeing as much as possible to see as many food supplies as possible, the different trees and berries and tubers and all the rest of it. Mhm. And they realized that when they had more options, they were more secure. That's the key issue. More options, more secure. Think of it. Think of it from the point of view of a gatherer. I survive by gathering food. I don't hunt it because I don't have the equipment. I'm carrying a kid, or maybe two, and I'm looking after the 40-year-old there, make sure they doesn't get into trouble, right? So I'm wandering around. I can't hunt, but I can check out, the trees because the trees, they don't fucking move. The berry trees, they're going to be right there. The tubers don't leap out of the ground and chase me or some shit like that or run away from me. No, they don't. They just stay there. So I go around as far as I can see. And the farther out I go, the more ground I cover, the more options I perceive. You see, that's the mentality of women. They want to go out and see as many options as possible. See? And they're happy to see it because they feel more secure. And think about it. If I go and see just a lone tree with berries, I'm dependent on that fucking tree of berries or whatever the fuck. See that bush or whatever it is. And if that bush fails, I'm fucked. But if I go out across a relatively wide expanse of savanna and I see a whole bunch of different berry trees and tubers and this and that and the other, well, I feel a lot more secure, right? Because if I see the berry tree and all of a sudden one day on my regular rounds of wandering around, I see that the berry tree is kind of dying, I'm not particularly concerned because there are other trees and other roots and other things that I can eat. And so the dying berry tree, well, that's going to suck. And let's get all the berries we can right now because the fucker is dying. But, I'll be okay because I have options. And so women focus on options. Okay. And that's why they have so many men in their lives. They have far more men on average than men have women in their lives. Yeah. Because they understand that they need the more options, the better for them, and they feel more secure. But men, it's the opposite. How do men in the savannah operate? They see a woolly mammoth and they say, "Hey, guys, let's go chase that fucker." And they chase it. And of course, the woolly mammoth runs away. And the woolly mammoth runs away faster than the men can chase it. But the evolutionary advantage of men is that men, human males, of course, and females too, of course, but human males can run all day. Mm. I mean, have you ever noticed that no other animal can run all day like a man can, like a human being can? If you take a horse and try to ride him at a gallop all day, the horse will die. In westerns and movies and shit, you always see them galloping on their horses going here to there, but that's just a fucking movie. In reality, if they did that, the horse would die. Horses can't do that. They die they'd collapse from dehydration, first of all. And even if you gave them enough water and whipped them into shape enough, their hearts would probably burst by the end of the day. They can't do it. Men can. That's why, you got marathons, you got ultra marathons, you got fuckers who run like 100 fucking miles and shit. And you got other motherfuckers who decide, hey, I'm going to do a marathon per day. Isn't that cool? And that's a fucking miracle. Okay. I mean, it really is. It's the only animal that can do that. A cheetah can run like at 100 miles an hour, but only for about 10 seconds. And after that, it needs a hell of a rest and just to chill the fuck out. Okay. Because it's blown its wad, as it were. Right. A man, a person, a human being, we can run all day. And so what we do, men, we go and hunt the mammoth and we see the mammoth and it runs faster than us, but we are relentless and we chase it and we chase it and we chase it. And here comes a key issue in male psychology, which is the sunk cost fallacy, which I always, always bring up because I have come to realize, frankly, because of the work I've done on YouTube and on Patreon here, that it is the most important fallacy of human beings, of men, which is we cannot walk away from an investment that we have made. We keep on throwing good money after bad. Oh, by the way, hit me with a +1 to make sure that sound is okay. We keep on throwing good money after bad. We keep on going back to the bad relationship because we cannot cut our losses. Why is it that so many great fortunes have been lost in the stock market? The stock is going down and people start buying into it, and they keep on saying, oh, it's going to turn around, it's going to turn around, it's going to turn around. It comes from the fact that our ancestors in the African savannah, see, they chased the woolly mammoth and they did expended a lot of effort. They ran, half an hour after the fucking thing. They throwed some spear at it, maybe, nicked it. The woolly mammoth was bleeding and shit. And they're like, we got to keep on going because if we don't go, it will have been for nothing. And if we keep on going, eventually we'll beat it. We'll win. We'll get the fucking woolly mammoth and we'll eat. We'll survive. And that's why men act that way. And that's why men focus on the one prospect. And you see why it's important that the word prospect, I'm not talking about women, I'm talking about everything. Men tend to focus on the one prospect, and that's why they fail. You should never focus on the one prospect. I'm not even talking about women, by the way, right now. I'm talking about everything. Never focus on the one prospect. Focusing on the one prospect works in the savannah when you're chasing the woolly mammoth because you see it right ahead of you. And you know that if you just keep on going, if you're persistent, you're going to get it. And this is a great quality that men have: persistence, endurance, the ability to go after an objective relentlessly, not stopping. It's a tremendously powerful advantage that we as a species possess. And I tend to think that it is part of the reason of our success in terms of civilization and having created this wonderful technology and all the rest of it that we have. Planes that carry hundreds of us across the globe, communications technology, all the rest of it, the beautiful churches. All of this is a product of our relentless drive. But the flip side, the danger of it, is one-itis, not just with women, but with everything. The sunk cost fallacy. They are intimately connected to our most precious virtue, which is our endurance and our relentlessness. But it's precisely that can turn on us and kill us. When it comes to women, this is typical. We fail to understand that dating is a numbers game. Finding the right woman for the different needs that you have is a numbers game. We focus on the one girl and we suffer this oneitis. We get our hearts shattered. And women, of course, what do? They see lots of guys. Some of them are beta orbiters. Some of them are potential lovers. Some of them are just fuck buddies. Some of them are potential husbands. And they see them all. And they understand that, the more the merrier. They don't focus on the one guy. Sometimes they do. Sometimes a woman will focus on the one guy and she'll lose her head over him. Sometimes. But the majority of women, no. They have a lot of prospects. See? And do you guys see? I mean, give me some feedback here. Hit me with an A if you understand, a Z if you don't get it. Because it's very important that you guys understand this concept here and why women are more successful in the contemporary dating environment and why men fail. See, hit me with an A if you understand this, because it's important you understand before you keep on going. A if you understand it, Z if you didn't get it. Okay, so lots of A's, so I think it's pretty clear. I won't belabor the point anymore, but I want you to keep this fucking thing in mind. Okay, the second basic premise is it is harder to find the future mother of your children than it is to find a casual sexual partner. It's a pyramid. What's a pyramid like? Well, it's wide at the base and very narrow at the top. And of course, a pyramid's base is square, right? And a pyramid, what happens? Well, it gets smaller every layer you go up until you get to the tippity top when it's just a single point. That's the basic shape of a pyramid, of course. It gets smaller on four sides, right? Basically, it's a cube that the top layer of it, rather than being a surface equal to the base, the top layer is a single point, and all four sides, as it were, all the four vertical sides, they all taper up to that top point. That's a pyramid. And so every layer is smaller than the last as you climb it up, right? That's the issue insofar as finding the future mother of your children. Because remember, dating ultimately is for procreation. That's the point of it. You want to have babies. You want to find a woman who will give you those babies. And of course, make sure that they are your babies, right? Yeah. So it's harder to find such women. And it's easier to find women who just want to fuck. And it's easier to find women, even easier to find women who don't want to fuck you, perhaps, but they want to be friends with you or talk to you or whatever the fuck. Mhm. You see, think of it in this point. See, you're a decent, normal guy. Mhm. And you walk into a room of random women, 100 random women, right? And you have like the youngest is a 10-year-old child, and the oldest is an 80-year-old great grandmother. You could probably talk to all of them. Mm. And you'd probably chat with all of them and have delightful conversations. I didn't chat with a 10-year-old. I'm talking about, just having a nice and pleasant conversation. Okay. I'm not talking about anything sexual. Of those 100 women, with how many of them would you be able to have a nice and pleasant conversation, assuming that it's a perfect distribution of ages and whatnot? Out of those 100 women, probably 95, you could have at least a very pleasant and civil conversation. Of course, there's always going to be 5 women or 10 women, perhaps out of 100, that you just, there's just no vibe, no electricity, or not any electricity. There's like antimatter between you two. You just don't like each other. And it happens, of course, with guys. You meet some guy and you're like, this guy's a fucking asshole. He hasn't even said a word. And you're just like, I don't like him. That's a natural human thing we have, right? Out of 100 women, say 95, 90, you're going to be able to have a lovely, pleasant conversation, right? Now, those 100 women, right? With how many would you be able to have a sexual relationship? Far fewer, of course. I mean, discounting the ones who are under the age of consent, right? And discounting those who are, quite frankly, too old. mm, your number diminishes drastically, right? Say from 100 women, or let me phrase that, from 97 women, let's say 97 women, because there are 3 that you just despised, right? Of those 97 women that you liked and had a civil conversation and you was very nice, out of those, only 40 are potential sexual partners. And out of those 40 sexual partners, maybe you'd only really want to see for a second sexual encounter like 30. Because there's always, the 1 in 4 that there's no sexual chemistry or you don't like each other. I mean, you fuck, but it's like, whatever reason, right? And then from the ones that you're willing to see more often, it's fewer still and fewer still. And finally, the ones that you'd actually want to have a baby with are fewest of them all, right? I mean, think of it. This is very commonsensical. It's a pyramid. So, of course, what's going on is that you will have lower standards for somebody that you're going to have a casual sexual encounter with, and higher standards for the future mother of your children, of course. Okay. So, the second premise is very simple. It's very obvious, you would think. But oddly enough, few guys think of it. And this is where they make a huge mistake, as you'll see in just a second. Okay. Now, the third basic premise is the more you maximize your personal potential, the more success you will have with prospects, with women. And of course, conversely. And this is something that MGTOW and a lot of incels, they have a hell of a time understanding. Black pillars, they don't get it. Okay. They don't get it, or they don't want to get it. I suspect they don't want to get it. See, you're you. You're just some guy, right? And you've got certain, the looks department, the clothes department, the hairstyle department, the education department, the ability to converse with people, your social skills. You are a whole grab bag of different skill sets and different abilities and different, levels insofar as attractiveness, insofar as this, that, the other, right? Okay, well, we all know what's the best in something. And frankly, we know when we are looking our best and when we're looking like shit. You guys saw me on the videotape right now, on the video when I started, right? I got the beard, I got the hat. And why do I have the hat? Because my hair is a fucking mess. Yeah, I haven't cut my hair in like months, man. I look like shit, right? I got like the gray, cheap sweatshirt and an even cheaper t-shirt underneath because it's getting fucking cold here. I mean, I'm not looking my best, but you guys have seen me in like old videos where I got a nice haircut, nicely shaved, nice jacket, nice shirt. A couple of videos, I think I wore a tie a couple of times, right? And I looked pretty decent. I look like somebody that you'd trust with your business interest or whatnot, right? See? We know when we are maximizing our looks. We know when we are talking to somebody and sounding confident and in control. And we know when we sound like a fucking retard. We know it. And we know sometimes that we should be sounding more in control and adult and serious and confident. And we're acting like a retard. We're like, oh, God damn it, man. I sounded like a fucking retard and I blew my opportunity, right? Maybe it's some sales prospect. You went from your firm to some other firm to try to make a sale, and you weren't looking your best, or maybe you were a little just off on that day, and you give your sales pitch and you sound like a retard, and they just say, oh, very nice, thank you, no. And that's that, right? Right. Yeah, we all know that. We all know that we have a personal potential, that if we make the effort, we're going to look a certain way. Now, of course, if you're very young and perhaps you're in college, you've actually never gone out of your way to improve yourself. And this happens all the time, especially in these newer generations, I've noticed, because the parents and the teachers and whatnot don't demand of them that they look good. I mean, like, for instance, I went to Catholic school and we had to wear a uniform. And we'd have this vice principal who'd roll around, right? He'd yell at us because of our tie, because our shirts were untucked, our shoes were not shined. And he'd really give it to us. And he'd give us detention, the motherfucker. Make us stay like half an hour after school. Now, that was actually a big deal because there was the school buses, they'd leave. And so if you were detained for half an hour after school, you'd have to hump home on just like a regular city bus or some shit like that. You'd have to walk really fucking far to get to the city bus stop, right? None of us had cars, by the way. And so him giving us a half-hour detention fucked over our entire afternoon. It was like no fun at all. It would take, I mean, the the school buses would leave from the school and drop us off, half a block from our house. Yeah. I mean, if we were like leaving at 3:30, by 4, we're home. But if we get a half hour detention, yeah, we can leave the school at 4. But with the bus and the whole thing, it would be by 5 we get home. Fuck you. It blew our afternoon off, homework, all that shit, right? Yeah. Why? Why was he making that effort? Because it matters. It matters a lot. How you look, your shirt tucked in, nice shirt, all that shit, it matters. Black pillars don't want to admit it or claim that it can't be improved. It can be improved. And here's the thing. You can be a fairly attractive guy. Let's say, on a 10 scale, let's say you're an 8. Mhm. But if you look all disheveled, a guy who's a 6, but who looks put together nicely, nice clothes, nice hair, clean shaven and the whole bit, or if he has a beard, it looks nice, it looks groomed, right? That 6 will beat the 8. Yeah. Mhm. Or okay, maybe not the 8, but the 7. Sure. I mean, I don't want to argue in the minutia. I don't want everybody to go all autistic on the point. The point, as a general point, is two men who look roughly the same, even one who looks a little bit better naturally looks better. One is groomed and cleaned up, has good physical appearance, but cared for, groomed, looked after. He will be considered more attractive. And the next thing, of course, is social success. See, you need social success more than financial success. Okay, or it's more immediate. Mhm. It's a tricky thing because you see a lot of men who are extremely wealthy are disasters on the social front, and they pick up horrible women. Look at Bill Gates, for instance. I mean, look at his fucking wife. Huh? She's just like, ugly as sin. I mean, she looks like a guy, for crying out loud, right? I mean, she really does. And their children did not come out pretty, okay? He's a rich guy, but he didn't have that social thing. You know what I'm saying? It's very important. It's very important to have that social thing. Huh? And in many ways, more important than the financial thing. And here's the thing: prospects, i.e., women, they actually pay more attention to social success than to financial success. If a guy is very successful socially and is doing okay money wise, he will easily defeat a guy who's a billionaire but has no social grace, no social moves. And by the way, when we talk about social success, we're talking game, the ability not just to convince women to get into bed, but the ability to talk to people, men, women, older women. I mean, not in a non sexual way, I'm trying to emphasize. Game, as far as my thinking goes, is really just a euphemism for the ability to move in a social environment and interact with people in a way that leaves a strong positive effect on them. Okay. And if you can do that, and all it takes is practice, by the way, if you can do that, of leaving that strong positive impact on other people, see, women notice it, prospects notice it. I want to repeat the word prospects and not women. Prospects notice it and they are attracted to it. See, physical appearance is essential if you have nothing else. If physical appearance is the only, I mean, if you have no social success and no financial success, then your looks are all you got. Okay. So they better be spick and span or you're going to be nothing, right? Now, if you have social success, it's going to be essential, but it doesn't negate physical appearance. It only mitigates its importance. What do I mean? Well, like I said before, see, you got a guy who's an 8 physically, right? And you got a guy who's a 6. No, let's make it harder on him. Let's say he's a 5. Okay, he's a 5 looks wise, naturally, right? But he dresses nice. He makes the effort. Okay, he makes the effort to look nice, and so nice clothes. I mean, and he's in shape. Physical appearance is also the issue of being in shape and working out, not being like muscle bound like Schwarzenegger or some shit like that, but being physically healthy. And the key issue, by the way, insofar as the physical fitness is concerned, If you're doing like 3, 4 times a week, some exercise for like, say, an hour or so, I mean, like strenuous exercise, like really hard, like an hour every other day, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, perhaps. If you do that, see, your skin is going to clear up. You're naturally going to be exuding pheromones, and people are going to pick it up. Men and women of all ages. They will just naturally respond to somebody who's doing a lot of physical activity, even though they are not muscular, like Schwarzenegger or like some Adonis or some shit like that. No, no, no. Just the fact that they're doing consistent physical exercise, physical activity that demands a sweat, a hard sweat of an hour, every other day, it has an impact. And I've noticed it. The times that I've been playing squash consistently, like 3, 4 times a week, people react to me different. And like now, after the COVID and stuff, I really haven't picked up squash again or any other sport. Um, the reaction is subtly different. I can tell. I can tell. It's because people are animals. People are animals. And I'm not saying this in a morally despective way. I'm saying in the sense that we respond to one another as animals. And when we see another one of our species that's physically fit, even though there are no obvious demonstrations of it, but there's that vibe, that those pheromones or the whatever coming off, we respond positively. So you got that guy who's a natural 8 in looks, but he doesn't work out. He doesn't have nice hair. He doesn't have. He's not clean shaven and shitty clothes and shitty shoes, and he just looks like a mess. He's naturally handsome. He's a natural 8, and then there's this natural 5 who does work out, who does groom himself properly with a nice haircut, nice clothes. And he's going to push himself up to 6.5. From the 5, no problem. And if he's socially successful, that is, he's charming, he's got good conversation, he can make people feel at ease and make them laugh when he's talking to them. Never forget the power of laughter, of being able to make others laugh. It's very important and something that you should practice, by the way. Well, the guy who's a 5, a natural born 5, he takes care of his physical appearance and he exercises and eats right. So he's a 6.5. And he's got that ability, that social success, and he'll be an 8. And if he's got money to boot, he'll be a 9. Yeah. And you know who I can point to for this? Anthony Fauci, of all fucking people. Yeah, look at him. The guy is a dwarf, and he's not particularly handsome. But you ever seen his wife? She's good looking, and she's an older lady. Okay, I mean older. I don't know. I guess she's like in her 50s or something like that. But he snagged her like 40 years ago, 30 years ago, some shit like that, right? Yeah. mhm. He's shorter than she is, and she looks like a good-looking woman. Okay, and she probably was a hottie back in her day. I mean, now they had kids. I mean, they've got grown kids at this point, right? And so, that doesn't play any effect, but that's the point. See, you can be a short little goblin who lies through his teeth every fucking day with every breath that he takes, and you improve yourself, you'll get the right woman. Mhm. But you have to improve yourself equally. It's the physical appearance and the social success and the financial success. But the most important of them all, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as prospects are concerned, is social success. Again, evolution. Women need to belong to a social group, a strong social group, so that the group, the collective, will help her when she becomes pregnant. Because a pregnant human female cannot survive on her own. A female with a small infant child cannot survive on her own. Why? Because she cannot gather enough calories for herself and her infant, not on her own. Bears can do it, other animals can do it, not human females. Why? Because our infants are born premature. They're born roughly 18 to 24 months premature. Yeah, because of their big heads. See? See, a horse, a foal, when it's born, it can walk within minutes, and it can, gently gallop within a half hour, an hour. No problem. I've seen it. It's a beautiful thing to see a little horsey be born. And the little thing is all shocked and just lying there. It's all like little hooves and legs and doesn't know what to do. But all on its own, it stands up awfully quickly, and all on its own, it starts taking its tentative steps. It starts like walking along, and like I said, within an hour, it's in a gentle gallop and happy as can be. Yeah, and eating like a madman. Drinking milk from his mother or her mother, as the case may be. But you see my point. A human infant can't do that. Human infant can't walk. A human infant is embryonic when it is born. It's born premature. See, because of our big heads, because of our big brains, because human brains are much larger than the norm. And so, because of it, a woman cannot give birth to a fully formed human child. And that's why children are born embryonic. And that's why they are so dependent on their mother. And that's why the mother depends on the collective, the tribe, the society, whatsoever it may be, to provide her with collective security so that she and her infant child will survive. And what does this mean? It means that the woman is very much attuned to the society around her and to the clues of social success. And she does not want to form any kind of union or even relationship with a man who does not have social success, who is not socially successful. It's ingrained in her by millions of years, literally millions of years. Okay. Because it's about, what was it, 2.5 million years that human infants started developing in such a way that they were born premature, and that women depended on the collective for their survival and their child survival. You're talking 2.5 million years of evolution have ingrained in women the importance of the social group, the importance that the man show that he has social success. One of the ways to show social success is to have flashy car, big house because you got money. But that's just one of the ways. The other way is how you interact, socially interact with others. It doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates and you're the boss. If you're an autistic little shit, women will feel rejection, irrespective of the fact that you have billions. That's why supermodels didn't want to fuck Bill Gates, because Bill Gates had all the money, but he was a social retard. And everybody knows this. This is not a big surprise. Okay. I don't really have to, citation, please. Don't have to. Everybody knows that the guy was a social retard. That's why he didn't get the supermodels, because they wanted nothing to do with him, because they found him revolting. And that's a key issue. It's not that he was ugly. Anthony Fauci is objectively uglier than Bill Gates. Or, well, it's a competition to the bottom. It doesn't really matter, really. But the point is, Anthony Fauci got a hot woman because he knows how to move socially. Look, a bureaucrat like that, he has to know how to move socially, because the whole point of being a bureaucrat like that is the politics, the social dynamics, the favors, and moving in the social milieu in order to improve his position. Bill Gates is just a businessman, but a bureaucrat like Fauci, he knows how to play the game. He knows how to schmooze. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to socialize. So you see the difference between two guys who are objectively ugly, who are objectively physically yuck. One married an ugly bag of bricks, and the other married a hottie, or in her day, she was a hottie. And you can see it now, right? And you see what I'm talking about. The social success is so key. Okay. Uh, um, yeah. Okay. So these are the three basic premises of what is effective dating. Mm. Dating is a numbers game. Number one. Number two, it's harder to find a future mother of your children than it is to find a casual sexual partner. That's the pyramid. And number three, the more you maximize your personal potential, the more success you will have with prospects. And of course, the less you maximize your personal potential, the less success you will have with prospects. Seems pretty obvious, right? Okay. Um, Now, here's the issue. I mentioned the pyramid. That at the top there's like the mother, the set of women who are the potential mothers of your children, right? And at the bottom are just all women, right? It's a pyramid. Okay. So when you meet a woman, you have to think of it like you're carrying her up a pyramid. Mhm. You see, when you are dating, okay, you have to be open to anything. You have to assume that the woman you're meeting, she could be just a casual lay. She could be a beta orbiter of you, of course, that she orbits you, and I'll get to that in a moment. It could be that she's the future mother of your children. It could be that she is the woman that you're gonna meet and fall in love with and have babies, and you're gonna have a wonderful life, and you're gonna die in each other's arms, surrounded by all your 50 grandkids. Bully for you, right? Could be that. See, but you don't know. No, because you just met her. So you have no idea, right? And so you have to be thinking to yourself that I am climbing a pyramid, the pyramid of women. And I have met this woman. And now I'm going to climb with her. I'm going to carry her and figure out at what level does she fit. This pyramid, by the way, it's a metaphor that I want you to think of very carefully. The pyramid is your evaluation of prospects. Whore is at the bottom, wife material at the top. See? You approach any and all prospects you meet without any preconceived notion as to whether she will be your wife or your whore. You just meet her and you just keep an open mind. You treat all prospects that you meet with friendly indifference. How do you treat the waiter at the restaurant? With friendly indifference. And you're nice, you're polite. Hey, how's it going? Thank you very much for serving us. Yes, we're going to have the filet mignon or whatever the fuck. See? You're friendly, but you're indifferent. You don't care. Mhm. Eagerness or excitement kills interest in the prospect. Think of it like a sales job. When you go to visit a client and you act all like a excited puppy, the client is just like, I don't know, and gets all like that, right? Right. Same with women as in the dating market. Okay. Now, when you meet a prospect, you're going to carry the prospect you meet up the pyramid until she shows you her level. And once you have determined her level, never fool yourself that she is on a higher level. Now, what do I mean? Okay, so suppose you meet some prospect, right? Suppose you meet her on the street, and you chatted her up, and you got her phone number. Okay, you have no idea who she is. She just looks attractive enough. You peg her like, oh, she must be like, oh, she looks 24, 25 ish maybe, right? Okay, and she's like blonde, and she's got blue eyes, and you know that it's like natural blonde. It's not bottle blonde, right? And she's got a good body. She's like 24, 25, you get, right? And you get her number and you charm her, tell her some joke or something, whatever to get her laughing, because laughing is the quickest way to anyone's heart. Not just a woman, but anybody. If you make a joke, even if it's a boring dad joke, people will always appreciate it. If you make the effort to make others smile, not be a clown, because a lot of guys say, "Oh, I'm not going to be a clown." No, no, no. The clown is very different. Somebody who's polite and trying to convey an easygoing social manner and jokes around and says silly things just to keep everybody, with a little smile on their face. He goes down very well. He's socially successful. And what's important is that, see, a man who does that among a group of other people, of other men, other women, yeah, he does that successfully. He controls the group and says some joke and says something and then lets the conversation go off in another direction with somebody else at the helm. Or a potential prospect, i.e., a woman, will notice that. And she'll notice that that man has social presence, and it'll matter to her for the reasons I mentioned above. It'll matter to her, and she will sense, oh, yeah, he's somebody. You see? So it's very important. It's a lot more important than people realize. Anyway, um, when you meet somebody, right, you get more clues about them. Like this girl, this hypothetical girl, this natural blonde, blue-eyed, 24, 25-year-old girl, right? And you met her, and it was cold. I mean, here in Kharkov, it's cold as fuck, right? So she had like gloves and whatnot, and a coat and all the rest of it. And so you got her contact information and whatnot. And her coat is winter coat, so you couldn't really tell. So you know, um, you call her up or text her or whatever, and you like exchange, flirty messages and all the rest of it. And then you decide to go out to dinner. You invite her out to dinner, and you go to dinner, and she shows up, and she's a little bit fat, a little on the fat side. You hadn't noticed because of the coat, because it was cold, right? But now you do. She's sort of like not like 300 pounds, but a good 150 maybe. She's not a slim little reed in the wind, as it were. No. And she's got a little tattoos on the back of her hand. And you sit down, and the waiter shows up, and you're judging her, of course. You're looking at these little clues, and the waiter shows up, and you get to look at the menu, and she orders something, and you order something, and the food arrives, and she doesn't know how to handle her cutlery, and that gives you a clue that she's lower class. And she chews with her mouth open, and she starts telling you about how she met some guy at some club last week and fucked his brains out, and it was great. Mhm. And you're getting these clues, right? And so you're realizing where she is on the pyramid. She's a whore. She's nothing. She doesn't matter. Okay. She's out of shape, low class, but the out of shape, you can get a girl into shape. It's no big deal. And if the woman comes from a lower social class, you know, that's okay. You can fix that, right? And she starts talking to you about some guy she fucked when she's on a date with you. You know, what's that all about, right? Casually mentioning how she fucked some guy, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know, this isn't future mother material now, is it? No. You started carrying her up the pyramid. She was just some woman that you met at the very bottom layer, and you carried her up a little bit, right? And as you carried her up, you discovered, oh, you know, she's kind of like a whore. And then she tells you, I don't know, something really outrageous. She tells you, oh, she's actually 30. And you're like, holy fuck, yeah, she is 30. And it's just her face or something about it that fooled you. But all of a sudden, when she tells you that she's 30, you believe her because she is 30. And you're like, whoa, she's way past the fertility window. I mean, if the fertility window is, 18 to 25, she's way past that. She might be a little bit desperate to find some husband, and she tells you that, she really wants to find a good man, she wants to have kids and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you realize, dude, this is not, you know, this is a whore, but not even a whore, because she might try to trap me into having a kid with her. You see? So you see, it's all these little clues that she is giving you and help you figure out at what level she is on the pyramid. Now, this particular example, she's low on the pyramid, extremely low on the pyramid. You know, she's a cum dumpster at best. That's the truth. She's not somebody that you should waste your time on. Mhm. But of course, if you're suffering from one-itis, and this is the first girl you've talked to in God knows how long, after the last bout of one-itis where you were like totally shattered by some chick, right? Well, you're talking to this girl and you'll explain away all these defects. You'll pretend that she's not of the level that she actually is. See? On the one hand, you will know that she's a trashy little nobody at the bottom of the pyramid of women, because that's what she is. The tattoos, the fact that she's a whore, the fact that she's 30, they're all pointing to the same thing. She's a trashy little whore, and that you shouldn't even stick your dick in her because God knows what STDs she's probably got, right? I mean, she's talking to you about the guy she fucked last week. I mean, come on, right? She's at the bottom of the barrel, bottom of the pyramid. Mhm. But see, if you have one-itis, what happens? You explain this away because men and women, but men especially, we are so good at fooling ourselves. Well, no, actually, women are better at it than men because men fundamentally know the truth. Okay. Because our lives and our successes depends on us actually having a fairly decent grasp of reality. And so what'll happen is that you'll be pulled. If you have rhinitis, if you focus on this trashy little chick, the first chick you've met in months, because you don't understand the concept of meeting multiple people at the same time, or I mean, excuse me, not multiple people as meeting multiple people, of dealing with multiple prospects at the same time, right? Concurrently, right? You go from one chick to the next chick to the next chick. Well, you're going to explain to yourself, explain away to yourself the fact that this is a trashy little whore, and you'll pretend that she's better than she actually is. Potentially, you'll pretend to yourself that she might be the future mother of your children, and she will become the mother of your children, and you will know that she was a trashy little whore that you shouldn't have hooked up with, and now you're stuck with her. You're stuck with her, and yeah, and that's your life. And it's not that, she's a whore and she's 30 and she's fat. No, no, no. Because a lot of times these are symptoms of moral failings. It'll turn out later that she's greedy, that she cheats on you, she wants to divorce you and divorce rape you, and all kinds of other shit. See? Because see, these little clues, the tattoos, the vulgarity, I mean, a girl who uses the word fuck in a conversation, or says, the guy, says some profanity, she's low class. And what's more important is that you'll know the low class women. I'm not talking women of humble backgrounds, by the way. I'm talking low class women. you know there's a big difference. A low class woman, she'll have low morals, and she'll try to fuck you over somehow, you know, cheat on you or fuck you over with the police, with the courts, God knows how. Yeah, you want to stay the fuck away from them. Yeah. I mean, I did a video about the women with tattoos, right? The tattoos are symptomatic. How are they symptomatic? Well, because it's a poor impulse control. Because a woman who puts a tattoo on, right? She's not thinking long term. A woman who's thinking long term realizes that the tattoo, she might like it now, but a month from now, she'll probably hate it. And a year, 5 years from now, she will definitely hate it. And she might get one of those henna tattoos. A sensible woman might get like a henna tattoo. Henna tattoos are basically, they look like tattoos, but they fade within like 2 weeks or something like that, or a week and a half, something like that. Anyway, she might get that for fun. I knew one girl in particular back in the day. She loved her henna tattoos, right? And she would actually spend a lot of money on these fucking things, right? This is when I was living in New York in the late '90s, early 2000s. And she would get henna tattoos on her hands and arms, and a very pretty design, and they'd fade within a week or something like that. It was nothing. And I asked her, "Why didn't you get a tattoo?" "Oh no, because what if I change my mind?" Thinking woman, of course. A woman who gets a permanent tattoo, she's not thinking. And so a woman like that, she'll be impulsive. She'll cheat on you because she'll meet some guy who's very attractive. And we always meet somebody who's more attractive than our spouse. It's inevitable. It's inevitable that you'll go out into the world and meet other people who are more attractive than your spouse. And so she'll cheat on you with that guy because she has no impulse control. You see? And so you see how a clue, a tattoo, signals moral failings in other regards. You see what's going on? And you see, on the flip side, of course, when you meet a woman and she's always well dressed, she's always well dressed, not expensively dressed. She could have clothes that are, H&M kind of things that cost $10 or something, right? Not expensive clothes, but she's always like well put together, and she's wearing like appropriate clothes that make her look nice, but perhaps maybe they're a little boring, but you'd say she looks very nice. She looks very like she takes care of her appearance, right? A woman like that will be much more careful with her relationships, of course. And so, you look at all these little clues, and these little clues signal to you what level of the pyramid this prospect is. Mhm. The hypothetical example of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl who had the pretty face and covered with a coat, and you thought, man, this might be somebody, turned out to be a trashy little whore. Mhm. You see? Because of the clues. And so, what would be your failure? Your failure would be for you to look at this trashy little whore and convince yourself that she's better than she is because you have no other prospect. And this, of course, happens. It happens all the time. See, if you're in business and you're developing some project and you have a single potential customer, client, okay? Suppose you're just doing something and you're like, okay, I'm going to develop this, but if I don't sell it to this guy, I'm fucked. I only have the one prospect. Well, when you get into the conference room to cut the deal, since this is your only prospect, you're going to have to accept any terms that this customer gives you. Of course, because you don't have any more prospects. This is it. See? And the guy can, your counterparty in the negotiation can fuck you over in all kinds of points of the deal. And there's nothing you can do because you don't have any other options, because you don't have any prospects. You didn't develop other prospects. It was your fucking fault. You, the fucking idiot, who didn't develop other prospects. See? And so what's going on is that you have to develop other prospects and understand this. Mhm. Understand. Because let me give you an event that happened to me. There was this hooker I knew, a real hooker. Okay. And I was seeing her because I was in a very intense state insofar as my business is concerned. And I didn't, frankly, have the time or the interest in dating. Um, but I needed sexual release. I was under a lot of strain, a lot of stress, and a good roll in the hay is always good for that. I mean, and this naturally happens. You're in a business or career, and you get to crunch time where things are really fucking heavy, right? And you're going to be incredibly stressed out, and you're going to need sexual release. But the problem is, see, you do not have the time or the mental energy to be dating somebody to get her to be your regular fuck buddy, or your girlfriend or whatever the fuck, right? So hire a hooker. I recommend it. There's no trouble with it at all. You know, I mean, less stress, less mess. Quite frankly, she'll show up with a smile because she's a good hooker, and you're going to blow $300-500 on an hour for a good hooker, and you'll leave with a smile. It'll be fantastic. I mean, good vibes all around. Okay. Now, this, what I'm about to tell you, is rather embarrassing, but I figure that you much prefer me to tell you the truth than some bullshit. So I was fucking this hooker on a fairly regular basis, like maybe twice, 3 times a week, something like that. And we just got into a groove, and it was great. And I don't know, she cost like uh, I think I was blowing like 4,000 a month on her, something like that. You know, um, yeah, something like that. Anyway, the point is, what happened was, um, we got along. I mean, it was great sex, and of course, she made the effort, right? And because she was a pro, and it was great sex. And what happened was that we had a lot of we'd fuck, and then we'd have these really good conversations, and sometimes we'd fuck again, and she only charged me for the 1 hour, and she'd be there like for three, right? And this got me to the notion, thinking foolishly, right? And thank God I never brought this up with her. It got me thinking to myself, well, maybe she likes me. Maybe, we could like we could be something without like the money. And thank God I caught myself almost immediately. But the thought did pop into my head. I won't lie. I thought to myself, dude, am I thinking of wifing up a fucking whore, a literal prostitute? And all of a sudden I snapped out of it. And after that, I cut it off with her. Because, yeah, because I'd started growing, and it's very natural. I started feeling affection for her. Yeah, because I was fucking her on the regular, you know. I'd give her cash, but it was very discreet, you know. Uh, like as with all whores, you pay them when they show up, right? And we had a good time, good conversation. She was always cheerful and happy, irrespective of whether she was or not. But she was a whore, you know. It was her job to be happy, and perhaps, you know, maybe even she had a good time with me and enjoyed our conversations and enjoyed the second fuck that we'd have later, right? But bottom line, she was a whore. She was a hooker. Huh? And, you know, for a moment, and like I said, it embarrasses me to no end, even though the thought, you know, it was literally like a fleeting thought. But I realized, you know, dude, I'm elevating somebody that I should not elevate at all, you know? And anyway, I cut out seeing her, but then I started thinking about it, and I've thought about it a lot more over the years, and I realized that a lot of men do this. At that time, I was very stressed out with work. I was focusing all of my attention on work. And this hooker was the only woman I was seeing. I mean, apart from, you know, the regular women, my assistants and shit like that. But, you know, I wasn't romantically, sexually. She was the only one. I didn't have any prospects. I wasn't even thinking about that because I didn't have the time or the energy. And I was exhausted all the time and stressed out. I remember that was the thing that was top of my list. I was constantly stressed out. Okay. And I noticed too that had me very worried that my temper when I was at work, because of my stress, would like sometimes peak out, you know, and sometimes I'd be a little bit too upset with somebody who worked for me because I was so stressed out. Okay, and so anyway, what happens? What I'm trying to say here is, um, the hooker was a great stress relief, but it got me confused as to who she really was because she was the only woman, you know, sexual woman in my life, the only prospect in my life. Now, something like this would never have happened if I had multiple prospects. You see, and so it's the same thing. The hypothetical blonde chick with the blue eyes who turns out to be fat and vulgar and awful, right? If you have no prospects, you'll elevate this person whom should not be elevated ever. Mhm. And it's a mistake that women don't make for the reasons I mentioned before, that they have a lot of prospects going, male prospects in their case, right? But they've got the beta orbiters, they've got the guys that they know, they've got the guys that they're thinking about, the lovers that they're actually fucking. Okay. I mean, they got more prospects because of that. But men, one-itis. Men, we are monothematic. No, not monothematic. One track mind. Huh? And we can't handle that many fucking variables. You know, we can only chase the one fucking woolly mammoth. If there's another one, we ignore it because we're chasing this one. See? And that leads to consequences. Okay. So once you have determined her level, never fool yourself that she is on a higher level. Never. Okay. Always recognize what level she is. If she's a whore, she's a whore. If she is a nice girl, but she's not going to be the mother of your children, i.e., she's sort of like in the middle of the pyramid, recognize that. Mm. Don't fool yourself. Okay. Okay. When should you date? Well, that depends on how successful you are. The less success and standing you have, the more you should focus on casual sexual encounters and expanding your sexual and dating experience. And this is a good rule. When you're a kid who's living in his mother's basement, your aim should be to sleep around with women and have no thought of any kind of mother of your children shit. Just expand your opportunities. I mean, improve yourself, like I mentioned before, improve yourself so that you have more possibility with more prospects. But if you don't have anything going for you, then dude, you know, just casual encounters and expanding your sexual and dating experience. Now, the greater your success and standing in the world, and of course, the greater your stability, because stability is the key issue, the more you should be focused on finding a future mother of your children. Mhm. And think about these two ideas. See, if you don't have anything going for you, The idea of you looking around for a future wife and mother of your children is stupid. You don't have anything going for you. I mean, you're a broke ass student doing fucking, slinging lattes at the local Starbucks or whatever the fuck, right? You ain't got nothing going for you. What, you're going to find some woman who's going to agree to have your babies? Come on, man, get real. So, in those circumstances, straitened circumstances, just have sexual encounters a lot. Just go out and meet girls and fuck them. And it doesn't matter who they are, as I'll go into in just a moment. It does not matter who they are. It's only when you have something of value that is financial success and social standing and stability, then be picky. You see what I'm saying? When you've got nothing, you can't afford to be picky. You take whatever you can get. And don't turn up your nose at pussy, whatever kind of pussy comes your way, unless it's like illegal pussy because it's underage or rank pussy because it's just elderly. Other than that, whatever comes your way, try it out. Okay? If only for the experience. Okay? Yeah. Don't be picky. When you've got nothing, you can't afford to be picky. Yeah, I'm looking at those bullet points there, and I'm realizing I was like way verbose. It's a very simple concept. When you don't have anything, you cannot afford to be picky. So just don't be picky. When you've got something going for you, when you've got something in the world, and you are somebody in the world, then you can afford to be picky. Okay. But when you're like bottom of the barrel, dude, whatever comes your way. Okay. When should you date? When you are focused on career and business, eschew women if they distract you. Like the example before, the temporary MGTOW. See, I've never been against the idea of men going their own way per se. I'm just against it. Excuse me. I'm just against it, like for doing it for permanent. That is a mistake. You shouldn't go MGTOW permanently. What, be a fucking monk your entire life? That's stupid. Mhm. Mm. Why would you deprive yourself of not merely the company of women, but the possibility of having children? Mhm. Because children, I insist and I will repeat, having children gives you so much happiness. And to eschew having children is a serious mistake. A lot of times, MGTOW and a lot of men's rights activists, they say, "Oh, divorce, rape, and all the rest of it." I don't know, man. I mean, in my own case, I know how easy it is to protect your financial assets and not get ass raped, not divorce raped. So I am unclear as to how these guys got so fucked over. Okay, but anyway, that's a way different conversation. See, when you're focused on your career and business, just skip women altogether. And like I said, by my own example, and I frankly I recommend it. If you're a little bit stressed out, hire a hooker. Yeah, hire a hooker. Because look, sexual desire, the sexual drive, is essential to human beings. If you're in a time in your life when you simply cannot afford to have a girlfriend, not in the financial sense, but in the emotional sense, the time commitment sense, because you're in a very unstable point in your life, your business is very unstable, it's very touch and go, and you're working your ass off to keep the shit afloat, dude, you get a hooker. It's money well worth spent. And the hooker I was seeing back in the day, right? It was well worth spent the money. I mean, Jesus Christ, yeah. Because I really was. I think of it in these terms. If I hadn't been fucking that whore, I would have been a fucking nightmare on the job, and I probably would have made a lot of mistakes out of sexual frustration and stress. See, sexual tension, sexual frustration builds in every man. Okay. Be it a 17-year-old kid who hasn't gotten laid ever and is just jerking off like a little fucking monkey to Pornhub, but what he really wants is to stick it in pussy and come good, and he can't because nobody wants to fuck him, poor kid, right? Or some 47-year-old guy who's got a business employing 200 people, and it's touch and go as to whether the fucking company will survive, and he's stressed to high heaven, and he doesn't have time for a fucking girlfriend or any shit like that. Yeah, hooker. Just get a hooker. Mhm. Just, and if you are a 17, 18-year-old kid, cobble together $300 and get yourself a nice hooker, nice escort, whatever the fuck they're called in your country, right? Yeah, it's money well worth spent because at the end of the day, as we all know, or at least guys who've gotten laid know, there is a huge difference between the best, the best fat in the world that you could ever give yourself and a fairly decent lay. Hmm? No matter how good the jerking off was, it will never be as good as a halfway decent lay. And if you come across like a really good lay, I mean, it's like light years away. It's like a whole different universe away. You know what I mean? And we all know this, okay? And we all know that masturbation is just temporary release. It's just basically prostate evacuation, okay? A really, really good lay, hmm, the kind of lay that a really good hooker can get you, dude. It's a completely different thing, and it'll chill you the fuck out. Uh, Think about it. Anyway, who should you date? Okay, the first thing, and a lot of guys, including myself, a lot of guys have fucked up on this one. Date a girl or date a prospect that makes you feel good. If she doesn't make you feel good, ditch her. You have no idea how many times I dated girls that did not make me feel good. I was stressed. I was nervous. I was trying to keep their interest. I wasn't relaxed. I wasn't having a good time. I wasn't happy. Huh? Lots of times. Lots of times. Okay. And it's a failing of men. Mhm. Um, I don't quite know where it comes from, but we men fail when we are with women who don't make us feel good. I'm not talking about, that she doesn't give you a blowjob or doesn't fuck you good. She could give you great blowjobs and fuck you like you really want to be fucked, but you don't feel good around her. Remember, the sex that you spend with her, it's what, maybe 5% of your time together, max. I mean, come on, think of it. You know, the day has 24 hours. You're dating some chick. You go for like a weekend to some weekend getaway. You're going to be with her 48 hours. How many hours of those are going to be spent fucking? Huh? Maybe the night you arrive, maybe the second night, and just before you leave, 3 hours. Say, okay, let's double it. Say 6 hours. 6 hours out of 48. It's barely 15% of your time. 85% of the time, you're going to be talking and interacting. See? And so many times, guys, and I know a lot of them, uh, they hook up with prospects that do not make them feel good. They're good lays, perhaps, but they don't make them feel good. They don't make them feel relaxed. They don't make them feel, you know, happy. And I'm not talking about like trying to make some ecstasy happy, just like the normal interaction. Huh? You'd be surprised. Huh? Whenever you find yourself stressed in the company of a prospect, ditch her. No hesitation. Don't look back. Just say, honey, you're a great girl, great leg, had a good time, had some laughs. But bottom line, you stress me out and your personality is such that I'm not going to be happy with you. So sorry, babe. Just ditch her. Put on the big boy pants and make it happen. See? Don't waste time with a girl who doesn't make you feel good. Again, I'm not talking about in a sexual sense. I'm talking about in the quotidian day-to-day sense. See? I dated a girl a while back. Uh, I was always stressed with her. I talked about her in my Yandere video, one of my earliest videos on Patreon. Yandere is Yandere. You can find it in the index of videos, right? Yandere is a Japanese anime term. It's about a girlfriend who's complicated. Anyway, in the video, I explain it. The point is, see, with that girl, I was never relaxed. I was always stressed out. I never felt good. And because of it, ironically enough, I look back at the time that we were together and it was not particularly happy. And we didn't do anything particularly fun together because I felt stressed because she was that kind of person, you know, that made me feel stressed out. She was intense and complicated. And in the Yandere video, I describe her in detail. But the point, I was with her for like fucking 9, 10 months, maybe, perhaps more, close to a year. Yeah. It was stupid of me. But, guys do stupid shit. Okay, so prospects should make you feel good. You date different types of women at different times of your life. So define where you are in this period of your life and then define who you want to date for this period of your life. Now, this might seem incredibly obvious, but guys don't do it. Guys do not do it. They date whoever crosses their paths. That's stupid. See? You should have an aim. Just as when you're hunting for the woolly mammoth, you have an aim, the woolly mammoth, right? You have defined instinctively, of course, that you're in the savannah, you've got a spear, maybe a slingshot, you got two, three other mates, and you little band of 4 guys are gonna have to bring down the woolly mammoth and feed the tribe. Mhm. And but you have defined who you are, what your numbers are. Of course, you don't sit down and like do a spreadsheet about it. You instinctively know, oh, I've got my 3 buddies, so that's 4 of us, and we've all got a spear and we all got a slingshot and rocks all around, so we're good in that regard. So we'll use them and figure out a way to kill this fucker so we can eat it, right? I mean, but you instinctively define your situation. A lot of guys, when it comes to prospects and dating, they do not define their situation. They do not define where they are. Because once you define where you are, then you can define what you need at that time. You define where you are, and then you define your needs, and then you define the prospect that would be suitable for you. Example, you just arrived at college. You're a freshman, right? And you don't know anybody and you're nervous, right? So who are you? You are a college freshman. You don't have a pot to piss in. You don't have anything going for you, right? And you're nervous and you don't have any friends. So you've defined who you are. So what do you need? Well, you need a girlfriend, or a girl who is a friend, or better yet, a girlfriend who will fuck you so that you're not so anxious, and who will also be great to cruise around college with, to go to the different parties and not be that lone random guy, but rather that guy with the girl, the couple, so that, you can go to the different parties and it won't be weird. Yeah. Because a lot of times you go to some party and you're just some random guy and they're like, who the fuck is this guy? But if you show up by the hand with some girl, even if she's not particularly attractive, hell, she could be kind of like not attractive and a little bit on the plump side, right? But still, she'll be satisfying a need, a social need that you have. You'll have good entree, you know, and that's one example. One example of like, okay, here I have this good enough girl. I mean, yeah, she's not the hottest thing in the world, but she's grateful because maybe she's not attractive enough to have really pulled anybody better. So she's grateful. She, takes me out to parties. She's funny. She, brings me drinks, and everything is copacetic. So yeah, yeah. You see, that's one possibility because you've defined your situation. You don't need a mother of your child in that situation, and you don't need a supermodel. Hell, you couldn't get a supermodel, but assuming, see, assuming that you tried, that you had available a supermodel there in fucking country, in fucking college, right? She'd never give you the time of day. Of course not. There are other guys who are going to be hotter. He's not even going to notice you. You're just some fucking little freshman. So you got to define who you are and what's your available demographic of prospects, right? Right? Yeah. Now, suppose you're in New York and you're 32 years old, you're a lawyer, and you've just been named junior partner at Skadden Arps or some shit like that, some blue chip firm, right? And you're making, a good 200,000 a year plus an additional bonus of 100K. Mhm. You got a nice little apartment, right? So you're 32, 34, something like that, right? And you're thinking, man, I got money. Do I want to get married and have kids now? Fuck no. I got money. I got a solid position, stable position. I got a very respectable wardrobe with really nice suits, custom tailored, motherfucker. Yeah. And a bunch of Hermes ties. I'm looking pretty sharp. I have to look good for the clients and shit, right? And so, I'm looking pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. I've got some friends who are in the, art market, through a client. I met some gallery owners and shit like that, and they take me to nice parties and shit. And they also, some of them are taking me to like fucking fashion shows. So what am I going to do? Who's my target demo? I'm in fucking Manhattan, cocksucker. I got money, motherfucker. Fuck yeah. I'm going to date some models. Of course I am. I'm going to date some models and I'm going to land them. Of course I'm going to be able to. Do I want to marry them? No. These fucking models, man, they're all fucking crazy as loons. A lot of these Eastern European types are fucking whores, but they're hot. They're bangable, They fuck like rabbits, and I look like $1,000,000 when I show up with the supermodel, and I feel like $1,000,000 when she's sucking my cock in the back of the Uber. Fuck yeah. I'll date a fucking model. Fuck yeah. And so you see, you're defining who you are and your realistic possibilities. And based on that, you're saying, okay, this is where I can aim for. And you can, but you have to define yourself first. You have to look at yourself and you have to look at yourself realistically. It's very important that you do that. You have to look at yourself realistically. See? And well, that's easy for guys. Guys don't fool themselves. Women do. Women fool themselves all the time. But for the same reason, because you see, women, they depend on the social dynamics and their relationship with the collective. They have to change themselves and modify themselves to fit with the collective, right? But men are out there hunting the woolly mammoth. They can't afford to self-deceive themselves. Of course not, because they gotta know reality so that they can kill the fucking woolly mammoth. If they deceive themselves, they won't succeed at getting the food and they'll die. That's the reason, bottom line. Okay. So you have to be realistic, and that's the easy part for you. Okay. A lot easier than for women. And that's why a lot of women, you have these 400-pound porkers, man. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's like a hefty bag of flesh. Thinking that they can get Brad Pitt or some shit like that, or Leo DiCaprio. They're out of their fucking minds, but they don't realize it. They're like, you've seen these pictures of these fat tubs of lard. I'm talking half a ton, literally half a ton. And these porkers have some sign saying, I'm too much of a woman, and that's why nobody wants to date me. Of course, they're too much of a fucking woman. They're half a ton of woman, man. Come on, but they're just delusional. Okay. You're a guy, you're not going to be delusional. So you date different types of women at different times of your life. Define where you are and who you are in this period. And from there, you can figure out what woman to get. And here's the thing. This is going to prove you'd be surprised, because I naturally do this, by the way. I instinctively do this. And once you are very clear as to who you are and what you want at a specific time, and recognize that it's time dependent, that person shows up awfully quickly. That prospect rolls around really fast. Probably because you are mentally ignoring anybody who is not more or less in that demo. You're not being distracted. You're going for multiple prospects, but it's fairly quick. It's a weird thing that happens. But if you do it properly, i.e., of being realistic about who you are and what you want and where you are at in your life, the prospects come real fucking easy. Anyway, another thing that is very useful and always useful is who you should date. Well, don't date your beta orbiters, but develop beta orbiters. Now, everybody talks about girls who have beta orbiters, who are, guys who are like, quote unquote, friends with a girl. On my Telegram channel, I posted a video of some beta orbiter having a freak out because the object of his affection was dating some guy. Okay. So I had started to date some guy and he wanted to be friends. And he was just, just so pissed because, she didn't love him, right? I mean, beta orbiters, what they're doing is very simple. They are trying to be a girl's best friend in order with the hopes that she'll throw a fuck his way someday. And of course, it'll never happen. Okay. The girl, why does she want the beta orbiter? For the attention. Now, the attention, the feeling of security, the feeling that she has somebody, okay, especially when she's pursuing somebody else. Because when you pursue somebody else, be it a man or be you being either a man or a woman, you pursue somebody else and you're always going to be insecure and stressed out. And so it's very, very comforting to have a beta orbiter, somebody that you can call up, talk about shit, and just unload your anxieties. Mhm. Do like girls do. Do like girls do. Girls develop beta orbiters. And how does it happen? Because the beta orbiter floats by her, right? And a woman who is not interested in a guy just shuts him down. And that guy will just drift off and go in a different direction, right? But a woman who develops a beta orbiter, what does she do? She feeds him a little attention. She's like a star that exerts a little bit of gravity pull on that passing rock. And the passing rock, of course, at the feel of this slight gravitational pull, turns and starts orbiting the star, right? And the star, what's it do? It periodically just like turns on the gravitational pull. I mean, I know that scientifically that's not possible, but bear with me. It's a fucking metaphor, okay? Don't get autistic. So the star turns on the gravity, right? And the rock keeps on orbiting, right? And sometimes the star turns down the gravity, right? Because the star is busy with some other guy, right? And the beta orbiter kind of like drifts away and then comes back because the girl, the star, broke up with the boyfriend, and you know how it goes, right? I would do this all the time. You do it, yeah. See, guys don't do it because what happens is a lot of times guys shut the door to a girl who could be the beta orbiter. See, imagine this. Imagine some, but ugly looking, 22-year-old kid, right? And some supermodel who's also 22, but a supermodel in New York, right? And the 22-year-old kid is just, fucking loser at the Starbucks. He had to drop out of city college because he didn't have enough money to pay for the fucking thing. And he's barely making ends meet while he works at Starbucks, slinging lattes, right? And she's some supermodel, you know, she's getting paid, $10,000, $20,000 a day for a shoot, right? She's making bank. She's hot as fuck, right? So this girl, the supermodel, goes to the Starbucks to buy a latte, right? And the dweeby little barista there, who's the same age as her, right? Says, "Hi, I see you all the time. Maybe I can get your number." And what'd she say? She says, "No, thanks. But you're so sweet, but no." Or words to the effect. I mean, she blows him off, right? See, that's totally normal. Mhm. And the guy, the barista, is like, "Yeah, she's way out of my league," and just forgets about it, right? And tries to forget about it because of the humiliation, all the rest of it, but eventually succeeds at forgetting all about it. Mhm. What do guys do with a girl that they're not sexually interested in? They shut her down. Yeah, they shut her down completely. They ignore her. Mhm. Don't. You see, one of the things that for the longest time, I didn't realize um, that I would have these friends who were girls. Mhm. I'd have these friends. There was a girl back in high school, I remember, redheaded, really cute, called Anita L. I'm not going to mention her last name, but because I don't want it to ever get back to her. But she was crazy about me. You know, she was really fucking nuts about me, and she was very attractive. She was redheaded, beautiful eyes. She had like blue eyes, and she's just a cute little body. Well, we were 17, 18. Of course, she's gonna have a cute little body. But the way she was crazy about me, I didn't realize it. I liked her. I would talk to her about all kinds of shit. And she was totally in love with me. I didn't realize it at the time. Only years later did I realize it. She was my beta orbiter. And I've always had these girls because what happens to me is that I find girls more interesting than guys because guys, I can predict what they're thinking. Mhm. And so it's not particularly interesting to me. And I just like girls, their attitude. I guess part of me is has the personality. I've got part of the soul of a gay hairdresser. You want to put it that way, man? Because I like talking to girls. I like hearing their things. And when I decide that a girl is just not somebody that I want to fuck or have any kind of romantic relationship with, I can still be friends with her. And I enjoy being friends with her. Okay. Well, like a gay best friend, right? Why do so many supermodels in New York, for instance, have gay best friends? Because the gay best friend doesn't want to fuck her. That's why. Okay. The gay best friend wants to fuck the photographer, perhaps the male photographer, but he doesn't want to fuck the supermodel. He just wants to be friends with her. And so the supermodel is friends with the gay best friend or whatever the fuck. You see what I'm saying? Well, in my own case, I would develop a lot of friendships with women over the years. And some of them took it as just friendship. But I realized retrospectively it was a minority. Most of those women that I felt only friendship for, a few of them at first felt the same towards me. But the fact that I was ignoring them romantically and sexually became an itch like they couldn't stop scratching. And I've had a number of women in my life who have been beta orbiters. And quite frankly, most of those relationships eventually blew up because she realized, the beta orbiter realized that I was never going to get with her ever. And once she realized this, she was just infuriated. There was a girl called Paula uh, back in Chile. She was part of the art scene. Okay, I think I might have mentioned her before, but anyway, um, I liked her. I thought that she was great, and I liked the art scene. I liked her. I liked everything. But I was like, I don't want to fuck her. I don't want to have any kind of romantic relationship with her, right? And she, at first she was like friends with me, and then became really close friends, right? And we do stuff together and all the rest of it. And then one day she just exploded at me. The details aren't important, but she just totally blew up. Okay. And I was like, what the fuck happened? And the obvious happened. See, she had had romantic feelings towards me, and I hadn't. I liked her. I thought she was great. I had no interest whatsoever in ever fucking her. I like talking to her. I like going to gallery openings with her. I like discussing art with her. I liked going with her to buy art, to get her opinion about it and all the rest of it. No interest whatsoever in fucking her. And eventually she just blew up. And this has happened to me a number of times, uh, somewhere between half a dozen and a dozen times over the years. Mhm. But the thing is, see, I realized what I was doing. I was using these women as beta orbiters because it cheered me up to be around them. It cheered me up. And a lot of times I'd talk to them right before I was just going to call up some girl that I was really after. And me talking to my beta orbiter chicks relaxed me, put me in a good frame of mind, whatsoever the conversation was about. Didn't matter what it was about. My problems, her problems, didn't matter. Fucking politics, fucking world economy, didn't matter what the fuck the topic was. It would just put me in a really good mood, a really relaxed mood. And so I'd call up the girl I really cared about immediately after, and I'd get a date, get laid, everything copacetic. See? Yeah, that's what a beta orbiter is for. Get one or two or three. And now, if you get multiple beta orbiters, and I've had multiple at the same time, never let them know that about each other. You keep them on separate tracks in your life, always separate tracks. Mhm. Um, and don't talk to them about the women that you're dating. That's something else. That, I'm thinking of another beta orbiter I had years ago that blew up because of that. Because I kept telling her about some girl I was crazy about, and telling her and telling her and telling her, and finally she just couldn't take it anymore. Of course, because it was like fucking torture for her, because I was obsessing about some other girl and just ignoring her, and she couldn't take it anymore. She just blew up at me, and that was that. See, all beta orbiter relationships are doomed to an explosion. All of them, no exception. Okay, because what's going on with the beta orbiter relationship that you create with a woman, where the woman is orbiting you, is that you have realized what her level is, and you have realized on the pyramid that I mentioned before, on that metaphorical pyramid, right? And you realize that it's a level that you're just not interested in. She's just at a lower level than you want, and so it's not going to happen. Mhm. That's what's going on. Because of course, with a beta orbiter, if you actually had feelings for her, you'd want to fuck her. But you don't. You like her. You like her a lot, but you don't want to fuck her. Mhm. And for whatever reason, there was one beta orbiter girl I knew that she was just a little too old and a little too fat. Mhm. We had such fantastic conversations about pop culture that you can't believe. I mean, we talk about pop culture, we talk about books, movies in detail. I mean, she knew all the fucking movies. One time we saw all three of the original Star Wars pictures, plus two comedies in between, five fucking movies, something like close to 12 hours between, coffee breaks, food breaks, and bathroom breaks. 12 fucking hours of movies, right? And talking about them because we'd seen all five of the fucking movies. So we shooting the shit about it and saying, oh, I love this scene. Oh, I love when he says that. Oh, that was so stupid. Why did he do that? He shouldn't have directed it that way, blah, blah, blah. That kind of conversation, right? I mean, she was a mate. She was a friend. But no, she wanted something more. And finally, she figured out that nothing more was going to happen. I'd slotted her. I'd put her in the slot of the pyramid whereby she was just not going to be a romantic partner. She's just going to be a friend, but she was going to be a friend that I'd always pull to me. And why do you pull the beta orbiter? Because you need the validation. You need the ego boost. You need her to fluff up your ego. And you should understand that when you come across a prospect that you honestly and genuinely do not want to fuck, and yet you like her, you treat her like a guy friend. And that's the easiest approach with a beta orbiter before she has become a beta orbiter. You treat her like a guy friend, but you don't talk about the girls that you actually want to fuck, and you never mention other beta orbiters. Or if you ever do, because you have to, just very glancingly and distantly, and like my cousin in Canada kind of thing, just sort of like very low key. Okay. Um, a beta orbiter is very useful to you, extremely useful. Like a beta orbiter, in a way, is sort of like fulfills the same function as a hooker does. A hooker satisfies your sexual needs on demand. A beta orbiter satisfies your emotional needs on demand. The emotional needs being of feeling in the presence of a woman, but like you can handle her because you don't feel attraction to her. And that's the key issue. See? And every guy says, "Oh yeah, we'd fuck anything," but we all know that that's actually not true. Mhm. I mean, there are certain girls that we'd never dream of fucking. It would just be like, no. And I'm not talking about like your sister, your daughter, or your niece or some shit like that. I'm talking about like some friend or whatever that it would never cross our minds. And probably I'm just blue skying here, but I think that probably there's some mechanism in our heads that makes certain sexual relationships taboo. Like, for instance, the vast, vast majority of siblings have no interest in fucking one another. I have a younger sister. I never wanted to have sex with her ever. She's very, very pretty. And she's a lovely woman. She's charming. She's funny. She's everything and gorgeous. I would never dream of having sex with her. It was just, no, and I'm sure you guys listening to me who have a female sibling, same thing, right? Or you have a niece or whatever, it would just never occur to you because there's like a mental X, and it's not even that you have to like not look at her and force yourself to force your cock to y- go soft off. No, it's like nothing's going on. There's zero electricity. Like when you put a 9-volt battery to your tongue and it's dead, there's just nothing going on there. Yeah, same thing, I mean, if I saw my sister naked, I'd be like, "Why the fuck are you naked?" Put on some clothes for crying out loud. Come on, you're a grown woman. I mean, like that, It would, of course, that same mechanism, which I think is probably an evolutionary development because If that weren't the case, then we wind up fucking our siblings and all the children would wind up being retarded, literally, right? So that same mechanism somehow transposes itself to certain women who might objectively have a lot of qualities and might be objectively very bangable, but for some reason, we in particular, you or myself or whomever, we just don't find them attractive. I mean, like this girl, Pavla, I've been telling you about, right? She was cute. She was, I mean, I didn't want to fuck her. There were lots of guys who didn't want to fuck her. I knew them. And they were like, trying to get in her pants. And she was like, nah, they're not for me. She was picky, but that's not the point. The point is that she had a lot of guys who wanted to be with her, that physically. I just was not one of them. Mm. And she beta orbited me for, I don't know, 10 years until finally she just threw in the towel. She exploded, the whole 9 yards. But they are so useful. They are so useful. Okay. And you who have not had a beta orbiter, you don't understand it. And you should make it a point that when you figure out that you definitely do not have a sexual attraction for a prospect, but you like her as a person, the way you like a buddy and you have no interest in fucking your buddy, you just want to talk to him and hang out with him, right? Which happens, of course, if you're straight, sure. Same thing. And you want to bring that prospect into your orbit, turn on the gravity and bring her in, and you'll thank me later. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. You, when you're dating, like I said before, you define where you are in your life and you define what kind of woman you want to be dating. And by the way, a beta orbiter, every moment of your life is a good moment to have a beta orbiter. Okay. I can't speak highly enough for beta orbiters. And it's so understandable that women would have beta orbiters because it makes you feel great. It makes you feel fantastic. A beta orbiter, somebody who cares about you, somebody who's going to call you up and ask you, how you feeling and how have you been and this and that. So long as you don't stir up their jealousy, that's the key issue. Don't stir up their jealousy. Don't remind them that you're not theirs. See? And you remind them that you're not theirs by talking about the girl that you're actually fucking. See? Never do that. The girl you're fucking, better yet, never even mention that you're fucking some girl. If you play your cards right and you handle the situation correctly, you have one, maybe two, maybe three beta orbiters. Three is like tops because there's a limit to how many relationships you can juggle. You can number of relationships you can juggle realistically and effectively. Okay. So anyway, um, never mention other beta orbiters and never go into detail about the women you're actually fucking, and better yet, never mention that you're fucking some girl. Let her pretend that you're still single, still looking, still available to her. Hopefully, maybe one day he will see that I am here waiting for him and that I will love him and give him tenderness and open my legs for him to stick his dick in my pussy and make me happy and make him his girlfriend, which is exactly the same thing that beta orbiter boys think about the girls that they are orbiting. See, understand, guys don't take advantage of this. They do not, because they shut down the beta orbiters. I am not sure why I'm going over and over beta orbiters, but I find them endlessly fascinating. See? So anyway, holy fucking shit. I've been going 2 hours. I have the clock right behind me, and so I didn't really notice how long I'd been going. So you're gonna have to forgive me. Okay, so anyway, let's move on. Okay. You meet prospects, and we're gonna get to how you meet prospects in just a little bit. You meet prospects, okay? Yeah, and see, a prospect is somebody that you actually got their number and you are communicating with them, either by phone or by DMs or text or whatever. See, just somebody in your life, but that nothing is going on, that's not a prospect. A prospect is, think of it like sales. See, you have a customer base, but then you have actual prospects. Those are the subgroup of your customer base where you can potentially make a sale and you're in touch with them and you know their needs and they know more or less what you can provide. That's a prospect. You see the difference. See, dating for a guy is much like a sales job. You are selling yourself. See? And so you have to be aware that, you have a client base, but or possible clients, like names on your mailing list, on your MailChimp list or whatever the fuck, right? But from those email addresses, a reduced group are people that you can actually make a sale to. Those are the actual prospects. So you always have to keep in mind what are just, the women out there around you in your social environment and the ones who are actual prospects. I mean, like obviously, like for instance, some 80-year-old secretary at your job, lovely lady, she's not a prospect, right? No matter how intimate and conversational you might get with her, right? And again, some 15-year-old girl, like the daughter of your business partner, she's definitely not a prospect, because she's 15 and you're going to go to fucking jail for crying out loud. I mean, you see what I'm saying? You're reducing to ones that are actually possible. But more important, the prospects are the ones that you are in actual communication with. You are actually going back and forth, no matter how tenuous and slowly. Okay? Okay, now prospect. Now, you want to have at least 3 prospects at any given time, ignoring beta orbiters. At least 3 prospects, and better yet, 6 or 7. Okay, but never more than that number. Okay, because you start getting them mixed up. And this, believe me, this comes from experience. I was living in New York City. Like I said, I moved there in 98, and I left in 2001, right before the World Trade Center. Anyway, I was living there, and I fell in with a guy called Chris. And this guy, Chris, his sister, he was a bond trader. And his sister um, had this store, this fashion store called Truffaut. And this store sold like goods that looked like they were made of leather, but they were like actually like vinyl and plastic and shit like that. And all this shit, these like it was plastic pillows for crying out loud, or vinyl pillows, and sell them for $1,000. I'm not fucking kidding. And this is back in the late '90s, and people would pay for this shit. Anyway, she was part of the whole fashion crowd scene. And long story short, I wound up going to some fashion shows and shit like that, meeting models and crap like that. And Chris was a good looking guy. And so I'd get like the leftovers, but the leftovers were fucking hot, right? I mean, real, all kinds of hot. And, um, and well, long story short, I was a bad boy in New York because it was just, I'm a writer, so that's glamorous. I got good money. I mean, a published writer. Okay. So that's pretty good glamorous. I got good money. I got an incredible loft. It was 85 Pearl Street. It's the 4th apartment. Look it up on Zillow. It was a fantastic fucking place. Just huge space, all kinds of cool, right? And what happened was um, I was living there and I just met a lot of women, okay? And of course, I'm not like a cookie cutter kind of like lawyer or working on Wall Street kind of guy. So there was a lot of interest in me. And so I wound up with like a lot of women. And I swear to God, there was one week I banged 7 different girls on 7 consecutive nights. Yeah. It was just like the weirdest fucking thing, man. No, it wasn't the weirdest fucking thing. I was just like a fucking Jesus Christ, man. It was just fucking great. What can I say? Mhm. I lost track of a couple of girls, and to my embarrassment, mhm, because I was juggling a lot of fucking women and taking them out and doing this, and more than once, shockingly, I'd be talking to one and I tell them, something, and she'd say, "You already told me that," or worse. I'd say, "Oh, but didn't you tell me this?" And she's like, "No, I never said that. Who told you that?" "Oh, I'm, mistaken." Shit like that. Faux pas, serious faux pas, right? I'd say, I mean, in my case, 6 is like my maximum number. You got to be careful, okay? And the smart thing too would be to write shit down. When you're young, you always think you got the memory to remember shit. You don't, okay? You'll fuck it up. It's smart to write shit down, okay? So anyway, but minimum 3, minimum. And the maximum number is not that important. The minimum number is. You want to have at least 3 prospects that you are communicating with. Now, notice prospects, because see, just like in a sales position, you have a potential prospect, but no sale. And it could be that you're talking to the prospect and edging them toward the sale, but the sale never happens. See? And then another prospect comes in, and that prospect that didn't have the sale, sort of like you ease them out. mm? I.e., in the case of women, it could be that you develop a prospect for dating, and you talk and you meet and maybe you kiss, but you never fuck. And fucking is when you close the deal. Okay. You fuck some girl, or let me phrase that. You fuck a girl good, and that's when you close the deal. Okay. If you fuck a girl mediocre, okay, but I'll get to that. And actually, I'm going to get to that in the next episode. But anyway, um, you always have three prospects. And when you close with one prospect, i.e., when you fuck her good, then she's in your rotation of women that you're dating. Okay. But if you are, not fucking her, okay, but you're inching towards that, then she's a prospect, and you gotta handle her. And if it doesn't happen for whatever reason, and you just, you don't close with her, bring in another prospect. Don't dwell on the fact that you failed. Don't fall for the trap of one-itis. One-itis is a trap because you obsess about the fact that you failed. It comes from the woolly mammoth, the metaphor that you fuckers always make fun of me about. See, when you're chasing that woolly mammoth, you are focused exclusively on that. You and your three mates in your little tribe hunting the fucking thing to feed your family. Okay. When you focus like that, monomaniacally, on one girl and you fail, it's a disaster. You got three prospects going for you, and one sort of like doesn't work out, you don't give a shit because you got the other two. And immediately you're bringing in another. You always want to have three prospects. Always. Always three prospects. Okay? Okay. Now, oh yeah, I wrote here, keep a written log in a spreadsheet. Yeah, that's smart. It's a smart thing to do. Okay. And when you get up there, when you cross the three prospect line, yeah, keep a log. It'll make your life easier, and you won't make these faux pas. Okay, now here's another thing that is key. Date anyone, no matter how inappropriate. Okay, date anyone. Mhm. See, if you decide that you're in your 40s and you decide I want to get married, that's all good and fine. That's all good and fine. But if some girl who's clearly inappropriate in terms of being the mother of your children, she swings by, mhm, passes your star, and gets caught up in your gravitational pull, as it were, to extend the metaphor, you know, don't let her go. Don't turn your back on her. Don't shut her out. Don't switch off the gravity. Keep her there orbiting. Fuck her, do whatever. It doesn't matter if a girl is not um, perfect for your needs at that time. It could be that you're looking for a girl who really is at the tippity top of the pyramid, i.e., mother material, possible wife material. And some girl who's lower on the pyramid, whom you consider would never be mother material, passes by, and you wind up fucking her, or let me phrase it, you have the potential, you could potentially fuck her if you wanted to, then want her. Go ahead, do it. Okay. Date anyone, fuck anyone. Okay. No matter how inappropriate. And by the way, I have to emphasize, of course, this is within a range of attractiveness and legality. Okay. Now, attractiveness in the sense of, whatever you find more or less attractive. Okay. More or less. And never make that parameter too narrow. Never say, oh, she's got to be like this, and that. She's got to be like at least 5'7" and no more than 110 pounds, and she's got to have pale white skin and red hair and green eyes, and she's got to be left-handed. No, don't be that fucking specific, because you'll never find that girl. The more specific you get, the harder it is. It has to be general. The general parameters have to be loose and negotiable. The only issue that is non-negotiable is fertility, because that is an absolute hard line. See, when you are seriously thinking of getting a girl to marry her, mm, the whole point of marriage, the whole point of, it's having a kid, right? That's the whole point of dating, for crying out. Like I said at the beginning of this fucking presentation, that's gone on goddamn long. Anyway, the whole point is to procreate, to have babies. The girl between 18 and 25, that's the most fertile she'll ever be. Well, actually, technically, it's between 16 and 22. But, under 18, that's age of consent rules and shit like that. You don't want to get mixed up in that. 18 is for sure an adult. Okay. So 18 to 25. Mhm. And, most women today are fairly healthy. I mean, compared to ancestors and stuff. And so a kid born when she's 24, 25, 26, 27 is going to be perfectly fine. But the point, see, when you are thinking seriously about having babies, okay, uh, a woman outside of that window of fertility, forget it. She's not gonna do it for you. There was a girl I knew in Chile when I was at a period in my life that I was thinking maybe I want a family. Actually, it was at the start of my 40s. I must have been like 42 or something. And I was thinking, yeah, I think it's time to have a kid or have a family. And she was one of the girls that sort of like one of the prospects that I saw in that period, which eventually wound up with my wife. So anyway, she was a lovely girl. Her name was Valentina. And she was beautiful. I mean, really beautiful. She was brown hair, brown eyes, light brown skin. She was European. She was not Indian. Um, she was gorgeous, just really gorgeous. But she was 30 with regrets. I liked her a lot. She was a great girl. Yeah, we laughed, had a good time. Yeah. But she was 30. I discounted her. Yeah. Just no. Okay. But other than that, don't let your limitations limit you. Oh, that's stupid. That sounds incredibly stupid. Let me rephrase that. See, consciously expand your range. Oh yeah, my fatty and old lady. Yeah. Okay, so 2001, 2000. I'm driving through Alaska on my Land Rover with my dog, right? And I get to Fairbanks and I get to a hostel and it's winter, okay? And there's nobody around. And so, it was a hostel that was big enough for a lot of people, but nobody there. And so I spent the night there. And the operator of the hostel, not the owner, she just operated it. She was this fatty. And I'm talking like 300 pounds. Okay. She was young. Okay. She was like 27, I think. She was fucking fat. I mean, Jesus Christ, right? I mean, just, yeah. And we started like flirting. And before you know it, I'm banging her, and fucking her was like fucking the ocean. Okay. I mean, imagine you put the ocean in a hefty bag. Okay. A hefty bag made of skin, sloshing around all over the place. Right. And you start like humping that bag of skin filled with the ocean. It was like that. I felt like when I was fucking her, that I was like diving into a sea of flesh. Mhm. And I felt sometimes that as I was like thrusting into her, that just be enveloped and just be, assimilated somehow into her fatness. It was just weird, man. It was just trippy as fuck, and kind of horrifying to tell you the truth, right? Yeah, I fucked her. Of course I did. Because I wanted to see what it was like to fuck some fat girl, you know? And she was a nasty piece of work now that I remember it. Okay. God, I hadn't thought of that in years. But yeah, she was. She was kind of like a nasty chick. Mhm. Anyway, I fucked her. And that, I ticked off my bucket list fucking a fat girl. I mean, a really fat girl. I mean, just like, Jesus, when she was on top of me, which she was, I thought I would like suffocate. Really, honestly. And I just like told her, no, let me roll you over kind of thing. And she was kind of relieved because she was so fat that she really couldn't work up much when she was on top, right? Because yeah, we all know that when you're on top in terms of sex, you got to work at it, right? It demands physical effort, and she couldn't really muster that effort because she's so fucking fat. I don't know how the hell it happened. She lived in fucking Alaska, But anyway, that was my fatty. And in 90, 97, July of 97, I think. June, July, something like that. I went to Mexico. I went to Cancun to Club Med there. And I met this old lady. I like really old lady. Now, I was 29 and she was 51. Okay. And she was one of those old ladies who's struggling so hard to remain physically attractive. And I fucked her. Sure. I had the opportunity to because we flew out to Chichen Itza. There were two ways to go to Chichen Itza from Cancun. You could go by bus, which is like 5 hours. Fuck that. Or you could go by a small private plane, which of course, you might crash and die, but, you know, worth the risk. So I took the plane and this woman did too. She was from New York and I was living in LA. And we flew out there and, and on the plane ride, we were just talking, chatting. That's how I met her. Then we got there and we're like, oh, let's go together. We both got a t-shirt there, I remember, and saw the pyramids. And at that time, you could actually climb up the pyramid to the top of the temple and shit like that. And when we got to the top of the temple, it was like this small, crowded little space. I mean, it was mostly stone. And it was tough to go up, and I remember tough to go down. The down part was hard because you had this vertigo feeling that you'd tip over and fall all the way down. And they would tell us how they would sacrifice people at the top of the temple and toss the pieces down the steps, man. Creepy as fuck. But anyway, yeah, I saw Chichen Itza, flew back and fucked that night. Yeah, had dinner after, then fucked again. Yeah. And after that, she wanted to fuck some more the next day. And I kind of like, I found somebody else, quite frankly, because she was 50, she was 22 years older than me, you know? Yeah. And see, that kind of experience, it's really good. Okay. Not in the sense of like it was good sex. No, because it teaches you a lot. Mhm. It teaches you a lot that you hadn't realized. See? And so that's why you should never say no. You date anyone, and if you have the chance to fuck anyone, fuck them. Okay? Because it's a good experience. And what's weird is that a lot of guys who are sexually unsuccessful, they turn up their noses at a girl that they don't find really attractive, which is just foolish. It's just incredibly foolish because, first of all, they're depriving themselves of the ego gratification that some woman wants to fuck them, even though she's not quote unquote appropriate. But somebody wants them. Mhm. And that in and of itself provides enormous ego gratification. A lot of times, a lot of guys who are incels or are sexually unsuccessful, they turn up their noses at women that they think are, inappropriate or basically beneath them, which is just insane. Beggars can't be choosers, but you'd be surprised how many incel beggars are choosers and choose not to bang some girl because she's not up to snuff, which is absurd. It's stupid. And it's ultimately self destructive. Why? Because, see, a lot of times when you're going through a sexual rut and some girl, perhaps not particularly attractive, or perhaps old, or perhaps whatever the fuck, fat, what have you, she wants you and fucks you, that very fact lifts up your ego. And the fact is, the old lady that I banged, right? She gave me the ego boost to fuck the next girl. The next girl was this hot little Asian thing who was there with her husband, and she cheated on him with me. Yeah. In the middle of the day, we were like flirting in the pool. He was watching, you know? And I said, oh, let's go get a drink. And we went over to the bar, which was right behind him. He was like lying in the chaise lounge. And he was like pissed that we were like, flirting and stuff like that. And he like turned to see what we were doing when we went to the bar. And we had these little beads that we had to give. That's how you bought drinks, which is a really stupid system. I don't know why they just free drinks and just charge a little more or something. Whatever the fuck. It was Club Med, it's a weird system like that. Anyway, we gave her these little beads. I think they were yellow, right? And we bought a couple of drinks, and I just grabbed my drink and grabbed her hand, and she grabbed her drink, and I just pulled her to the room. I didn't say anything. We just went over to my room, and we fucked like little rabbits for the rest of the afternoon. And that never would have happened had it not been for the enormous ego boost that I got from the old lady. the old lady that with whom I'd gone to Chichen Itza and banged that afternoon and evening. See, it gave me that ego boost. And to tell you the truth, and we're being honest here, see, when I went to Cancun at that time, I was feeling really like an incel. I was feeling really, really low. And that trip turned it around for me. Totally. And it wasn't just the only Jesus Christ, I had so much fucking sex on that fucking trip, right? It was just about every night. And it was all kinds of stuff. The cute little Asian chick. I don't even remember her fucking name, although I took a picture of her naked, you know. I still have that fucking picture. But anyway, the point, yeah, I banged her like practically right in front of her husband. It gave me a huge ego boost. The whole thing. When I went back to LA, I fell on top of the fucking world because that's the thing about sex and guys. See, we fuck and it changes our whole attitude. It changes our entire attitude. I look at all these poor incels and all their fucking boards and all the rest of it. And you know what I think to myself? I wish that Elon Musk would sell off maybe a tenth of a percent of the shares in Tesla that he owns and hire a bunch of hookers for all these fucking incels. Dude, after that, those fucking incels, they'd all become like, you know, genius engineers and shit and solve world hunger and the energy crisis to boot. Yeah, because these fuckers, if they got laid, it would boost their egos because that's how men are. A girl can go years without fucking and she's perfectly fine. She still thinks of herself as a decent person, a good person, a smart person, a pretty person. A guy, he goes without getting laid long enough, he's liable to commit suicide for crying out loud. We need to get laid for our ego. So for you to deny yourself sexual opportunities because the person is inappropriate, dude, that's fucking stupid. Think of the pyramid. At the tippity top are the potential mothers of your children. At the very bottom are just flat out whores. Okay? I mean, whores are prostitutes are the penultimate level. The very bottom are the trashy pieces of garbage women. And we all know who they are. Okay? So, anyway, the point I'm trying to make, the prospects that you meet, the prospects that you have the potential to go to bed with, they do not all have to be the mother of your children. They can be just trashy women that you meet along the way. They can be just stunt fucking, like I fucked that fat girl and that old lady. Dude, it doesn't matter. What matters is that, see, when you're having regular sex, it improves your ego. And ultimately, that's the power that women have over men. They are, if only in an instinctive level, are very much aware that their attention gives men an ego boost that they can't find anywhere else. And that's the truth. And so you as a man have to guard against this power that women have and fuck women, even ones that are inappropriate, even ones that aren't the best. Because what happens is that a lot of times the women who aren't like the best, who aren't appropriate, give you the confidence, the ego boost to go after the ones that you really want or the ones that are higher up the pyramid. And there's a saying, how do you get on top of an elephant? You get on top of a duck. And you're like, what the fuck is that? Well, the saying goes like this. See, to get on top of an elephant, you get on top of a duck. And then from getting on top of the duck, you get on top of the donkey. And then from getting on top of the donkey, you get on top of the horse. And then from getting on top of the horse, you stand up and you get on top of the elephant. That's how you get on top of the elephant, step by step. It's a pyramid. How do you climb the pyramid? Step by step, level by level. If you have an opportunity with a fairly trashy girl, so long as you're taking basic protection, condom and whatnot, she will give you the ego boost to go up for the higher level woman. Women, as a sex, want men to have one-itis because it improves their possibilities. But a man who breaks out of one-itis and has multiple prospects and understands that any sexual opportunity that comes their way is a potentially good thing because it boosts their ego and allows them to pursue higher status women because they'll feel more confident due to the fact that they fucked the potentially inappropriate girl who at least, made them feel good. Yeah, women are afraid of that. And they're not afraid of it like in a physical sense or, a deep emotional sense, but they sense it and they don't really like it. Okay. But that's beneficial to men, to you. Huh? Oh, by the way, let me check to see if you guys are still listening to me or am I talking into the ether? Give me a +1 if you fuckers can still hear me. Okay. So, yeah. So understand what's going on. And by the way, I fucked the fat. What was the order? Oh no, the fatty was later. I fucked the old lady. Yeah, she was the first one. Oh, that was funny. I fucked the old lady at the Cancun, right? And then the next day, in the afternoon, I fucked that Asian girl. She was so fucking hot. She was Korean. I mean, Korean American, right? And she had a great body, and she was married to like a blondish guy with like steel rimmed glasses. I can still picture him so clearly at that Chaise Lounge. He was sitting there by the pool, uh, without a shirt, and he was like pasty. And I'd been talking to the girl because I'd been swimming and she was there and we were just chatting, just chatting very innocently. And I made her laugh. And I'm telling you guys, laughter is like kryptonite to women. You make them laugh, you get them wet. It's as simple as that. So anyway, I'm chatting with her, and I swam, and then I chatted with her, said something, and then kept on swimming around. And she sort of like, she wanted to keep on feeling good because I'd made her feel good by making her laugh. And so somehow I was like at some other end of the pool, and she was there, and we kept on talking and this and that. I don't even remember what the fuck we talked about. And we're like, and oh yeah, and then I'm like, um, this guy was looking at it. And, oh no, she told me. Now I remember. Now I remember. She told me I'm here with my husband, and she motioned to him, and I looked over at him, and he's like shooting daggers at me, and I thought it was funny. Mhm. And then and I thought it was funny, of course, and I didn't feel insecure because I banged the old lady, twice the night before and that morning, and so I was feeling pretty good. And yeah, when I invited her over to get a drink, the conversation sort of petered out, and it was really funny because as we're getting our drinks, we'd already made up our minds that we are gonna fuck. Yeah, it was like that. And of course, that girl, that Asian girl who fucked me practically, literally in front of her husband, she's a whore. Mhm. On the pyramid, sure, she's a whore. Do I feel good about it? Well, I feel bad for the poor bastard, but it's not my fault, If it hadn't been me, it would have been some other guy. So I don't feel a bit bad in the sense of like, ooh, I was so immoral and shit like that. The guy was a weakling. He was a weakling. Huh? Uh, what would I have done? I would have told her, look, honey, you go to the bar with that guy and we're getting divorced right the fuck now. Which do you prefer? But he was weak, and that's why she fucked around on him. But anyway, that's a different story. Let's move on. The point I wanted to make here is that, see, don't limit yourself insofar as dating. Okay. Now, here we come to the key issue, which is the mother of your children. Say, because that is the ultimate goal, the mother of your children. Apart from the age range, which is the fertility issue that I mentioned before, all of your requirements should be flexible. Her looks, her brains, her education, her socials class, all of that is flexible. The only thing that is inflexible is whether she's a whore or not. Okay. A whore in the literal sense of being a prostitute, or a whore in the metaphorical sense of being just a cock hopper. If she's hopping from cock to cock, no, you don't want her. Okay. It's simple as that. Uh, Ideally, you want a virgin. Ideally. Mhm. If you can't get a virgin, very few partners. I mean, like two tops. Yeah. You don't want a whore. You don't want a woman who's been so fucked out that, you're just another cock to her, and because she will have the bottom line, and this is very true. This is completely true. Women who have had a lot of sexual partners can no longer pair bond. And this is a truism, and don't give me any bullshit that it's not. Every statistic shows that the more sexual partners a woman has had, the more likely she is to divorce her husband. Mhm. Irrespective of number of children, irrespective of everything else. She will. See? Because a woman who's gotten a lot of cock is just not able to pair bond. She's just not able to. And that's an unfortunate fact, but that's the way it is. And to argue about it and complain and bitch and moan about it serves no purpose. Okay? That's the way it is. And so make it a point that everything else is flexible. And here's a truism. Okay? Apart from the fact of her fertility, and apart from the fact that she not be a whore, right? It doesn't really matter who you marry. And that's the stone cold truth. Few people are ever going to tell you that, but I'm here to tell you. It doesn't really matter. Oh, one girl is just as good as the next. Because what happens is that, see, in a marriage, see, it doesn't really matter the before the kids. Once you get the kids, and once you're like living together and stuff like that, you're both going to wind up adapting to one another. Mhm. And it's not really going to matter what you guys were before. The only thing that can help is if you have a similar sense of humor and can occasionally but consistently make each other laugh. That helps a lot. Having a similar sense of humor where both of you find the same things funny and both of you know more or less how to make the other laugh. You don't want it to be like a laugh festival 24/7. No, I mean, sense of proportion here. But every once in a while to be able to joke and make each other like at least smile and truly smile, not like forced smile. Okay? That's the only thing that really matters. And everything else, how attractive she is or unattractive she is, this, that, the other, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because, like, look, you marry an extremely attractive woman. mm, uh, that's my case, frankly. You forget about how hot she is after 2 months. Yeah, you do. I mean, you're like, yeah. And the funny thing is that, see, you might come across some random woman and you're gonna say, "Wow, she's really pretty." And then you look at your actual wife who's like shitloads hotter, and you're like, "Oh yeah, no, she's nowhere near as hot as my wife, but I feel like she's more attractive." It's weird. You don't see how attractive or unattractive your mate is. eh? You don't. You can wind up marrying some girl who's kind of ugly, you know, and not like, just not photogenic. No, no, like ugly. Okay. And the weird thing is that other qualities, especially the part of whether she is psychologically comforting, is going to be more important. huh? Everything else is, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised that at the end of the day, it almost doesn't matter. I If I had been told this back in my 40s, I would not have believed it. I mean, just like a decade or so ago, if I'd been told this, I would not have believed it. But with experience and observing, really observing other marriages and comparing them to my own, I can tell you that, just marrying anybody doesn't really matter. Just as long as they have those qualities, which is the age range issue. Because, of course, a woman who's 35, 40, you can't have kids with her. I mean, you can't, right? Let alone the fact of, the thing I always say, never be a stepfather. Never, ever, ever be a stepfather. Never. I mean, that's the other thing I forgot to put here, but it's such an ingrained notion that I forgot to put it, but you guys probably already know it. I'll just say it real quick. Never, ever, ever be a stepfather. Never. And don't marry a divorcee either. Okay. A woman who got married young and didn't have any kids and divorced, no, she's used goods. She's used goods, man. And if she divorced her first husband, she's going to divorce you. Okay. Kids or not. So fuck off. No, never marry a divorced woman. Never, ever, ever marry a woman who is a mother, because she will have no incentive to have a child with you. Maybe one child to sink her claws into you, but not a second child. Why would she? She already has a kid or two from before. See? So you're going to be devoting your resources to another man's child. That other man is always going to be rolling around, and more likely than not, because it's his kids, right? And no matter how big of a bastard he is or she claims that he was, he's always going to want to be in their lives and the lives of his kids. Most men, the vast majority of men, don't just fucking run. They care about their kids, even if they hate the wife or the ex-wife or the ex-girlfriend, whatever the fuck, right? So the ex is always going to be around, always going to be an issue, and potentially, and this happens all the time, the ex might be able to sweet talk her into bed, and all of a sudden you've got you are the stepfather to a bunch of kids, and your wife is fucking your stepchildren's father, and you're paying the bill. Yeah, so no, stepfather, forget it, never do it. Okay. But anyway, apart from that, the age range and whether she's a whore or not, a whore in the sense of being a literal prostitute or just a trashy woman, you never, ever, ever um, are going to care about the other qualities. You'd be surprised. Okay. Okay. So where should you date? Jesus Christ, man. Okay, I'll try to get through. I'm looking at it's fucking 8:45. I can't fucking believe it. I'm coming up on 3 hours, so I'm gonna put the gas on this one. There are two spaces where you can meet women in real life and online. Okay, and wherever you are, always focus on the enclaves with less competition. And let me give you an example. I'm going to go into it in some detail, but so many men go to clubs and crowded bars and concerts and shit and figure that they're going to meet some girl. There are all these other guys. They're already there. There's a lot of competition, quite apart from all the distraction going on because of the music and the noise and the crashing bodies and all the rest of it. It's foolish to go there. There's too much competition. See? I mean, like, okay. So, like, you're selling some good or service, right? Where do you go and sell this good and service? Do you park your store? Do you set up your shop right next to all the other shops that's selling more or less the same fucking thing as you are? No. You go to where there are clients, but no competition. Same fucking deal. But for some reason, guys don't do this. So, anyway, let's go piece by piece. Online dating. Now, online dating is extremely interesting because it's the meetings that you have online are always more fleeting than when you meet somebody IRL. What do I mean? You interact with somebody online insofar as DMs, maybe even like a Zoom call or something like that, and it's more ephemeral. There is less of a connection. Okay. Because when you meet somebody in person, when you shake their hand, when you touch their arm, when you're making a point or whatever, it's, you know, it's more intimate, more visceral. It's real. It's the difference between online and real life. Okay. So anybody that you meet online, the relationship is going to be very tenuous, as tenuous as smoke. That shit can just vanish. Wind passes by and you never see that person ever again. Okay. So you cannot invest anything in an online relationship. Okay. You can't. And to do so, to fall into the trap of one-itis with somebody that you met online is just height of idiocy, but lots of guys do it. Don't ever do it. Don't be foolish. Okay. So meeting someone online is always more fleeting than meeting someone IRL. But by the same token, meeting somebody online is faster and easier than meeting somebody in person. Yeah, of course, because you meet somebody in person, it takes time to get there, to see all the people around, to see people who are appropriate for you, to approach those people. It takes time, it takes effort. It takes time in the sense of actually doing it. It takes psychological effort in terms of working up the nerve to go up to some stranger and start talking to them or figuring out a way, an angle where you can slide up to them and get to talking and, form a connection. It's harder, but online it's easy. It's fast. Therefore, the aim is quantity. What you want to be aiming for is maximizing the number of interactions with prospects online. Okay. Now, the first way to go is maintain accounts on multiple sites. Mhm. I mean, there are Tinder, there's Match.com, there's all kinds of sites on your phone, on your computer. It doesn't matter what the sites are. Just have multiple accounts, um, have accounts on all of these sites, and have at least two, potentially four accounts on each of these sites. And I'm going to explain why. See, insofar, first of all, when you're setting up an account online, and by the way, I've set up multiple accounts online as research for this shit because over the years, I've always been kind of curious as to the online world of dating. I personally don't date online, but I've always been interested in it. And so I have multiple accounts on Match.com, on Tinder, on several of these different sites in order to get a sense of it. It's always very interesting. And here's the thing that I have a couple of sites, a couple of accounts as a guy. I also have a couple of accounts as a girl. Yeah. I get pictures. One of the pictures I had was like a set of pictures I had of an old girlfriend. She was a model back in Chile, a woman named Andrea. Andrea H. She was hot as fuck. She was like German descent. Actually, she was actually Uruguayan. She was so fucking hot. And I had like some lingerie pictures of her from some shoot, and I used them on some site. But anyway, the point. See, why do you want to make up a fake female profile? Which is the obvious question. See, because it makes sense to do an account for yourself. Sure, you're you. So you put your own account up. Now, it doesn't make quite much sense to do an alt account as a guy. And the reason is obvious. You can A B test. You have two accounts and you can put different profiles and you can figure out, oh, this works better. So I'll use this instead. See, and what you can do, the easy way to fix the problem so that both profiles don't appear, is you put one profile in one city and the other profile in a city far enough away that it's so like a separate sector. Okay, you set it at say 200 or 300 miles away. Okay, 200 miles is or 300 kilometers, 300, 400 kilometers, and that way, different sets of women are going to see it because women and most men, they define their profile by their geography. Of course, because if you're going to meet somebody online, you want to meet them online, but eventually meet them in real life. So if you have somebody who lives 10,000 miles away, what's the point of that? But if they live, 300 miles away, that's still too far. I mean, you want somebody who's relatively close. You see what I'm saying? So you do two accounts so you can A B test what's the best approach. And then you have a third account as a woman. And you put some picture on that's of an attractive woman, but not that attractive. And frankly, you can find pictures of attractive women online easily. There's no trick to it. And the easy way to avoid any kind of problem with any kind of AI scanning the pictures is that you just do a horizontal flip. You know, and so left becomes right and right becomes left. And the AI is just going to ignore it and say, oh, it's all copacetic. And why do you do that? Why do you set up an account for a woman? And you put the profile as minimal as possible and whatnot, because you want to see what other men are saying. You want to see how many other men are and what kind of quality those men are. And that way, you're going to see how much competition you have, what's the competition, and here's something else too. If you set up a account as a woman, you're going to get hit on. You're going to get DMs, direct messages, right? People are going to say whatever, right? And you're going to start to see what works and what doesn't. Because, of course, you have to make a leap in imagination and pretend to yourself, well, if I were a woman, what would I find interesting? You go on these online sites, and so many of the women say, I'm not going to show you my private pictures if you say, what's up? Okay. Or I'm not going to pay attention to you if you, if you, it's like one word, I want a conversation. And, you might not realize it, but if you set up an account as a woman, you'd be surprised how many men Just say, what's up? Literally, WASSUP. What's up? As if that's like, and that's nothing. That's boring. And of course, you, if you're pretending to be a woman online on some site, Match.com, OkCupid, whatever the fuck, yeah, and you get a message like that, you're like, fuck this guy, and you just delete it because he's boring. Okay, but more to the point, he's not making any effort, and that teaches you how to get the attention of a woman. Because what will happen is that you'll get, women get dozens of messages. Okay, sometimes from guys who are incredibly far away and you'll never meet them, right? But all of that for you as a guy who is operating this female profile, it teaches you what works and what doesn't because you start seeing those replies. And of course, you have to make the conscious effort to imagine yourself being that woman, that fictitious woman that you have invented. And by being that woman, you see these messages that you are getting from these random guys and you're looking at their pictures and you're realizing what works and what doesn't. There was one time I got this message from this guy who is like 64. Okay. And he was like gray haired. He looked pretty in shape. And the way he was dressed, the pictures, his approach, his manner, everything, to tell you the truth, if I had been a 26-year-old girl, I would have wanted to meet him. Oh, yeah. He was like an older guy, clearly, but he wasn't pretending to be a young guy. And he was clearly, I mean, he was. If I would have been a 26-year-old girl, I would have wanted to fucking bang this guy. And he was like 62. Definitely, he was, you know, close to 40 years older. He had it, and it was his message, his tone. His tone was playful but confident. I wish I'd screen capped it. I mean, I have access to it. I'd have to just go back to the account. I can't do it right now. It would take too long. But he he ticked all the boxes, and he was an old guy, gray hair, clearly, losing his hair. I mean, he looked like a 62-year-old guy. He didn't look like a 32-year-old guy. Fuck no. And he had punch, but there was something about his approach, and it was like confident, playful. The pictures that he showed, it showed a man. He wasn't pretending to be a boy. He was sexy. He was a real sexy guy. Then there was this Indian doctor, and he looked pudgy, and he stood in front of his car, an expensive car like a Mercedes. He stood in front of his boat. He stood in front of his house. All these things he claimed that were his, and he said he was a doctor, and he had zero charisma. Zero charisma. It was like, get the fuck away from me, you. And he had everything that you would think that a woman would want. He had material success. He was a doctor, the whole thing. And it was just no. Mhm. And see, I got like dozens of messages on that account. It was so eye-opening because you realize that you can suss out the personality of somebody by way of their direct messages. And when the direct message is just what's up or something, like hi or something like that, you're just like, this guy's boring. And like that 62-year-old guy, the gray-haired guy, the gray fox. I mean, I'm telling you, if I'd been a 26-year-old girl, I would have fucked him. I would have fucked his brains out because I mean, assuming, of course, that in real life he was similar to what he was portraying in his online profile. But you understand the value of this. Now, let me step back and go to a larger point. In our contemporary society, we have lost the notion of experimentation. We have lost the notion of looking at things from the opposite numbers point of view. We have become so narcissistic that we focus only on our needs, our wants. And this is a huge mistake. We should always strive to understand the other side. See, when you go into a negotiation on a business deal, and you sit at a conference room table, and they're sitting across from you, before you walked into the room, you should know what they want. You should have game played it with your team or by yourself trying to figure out what it is that they want. And you'd be surprised how rarely people do this. In certain businesses, people do this all the time. In certain sales focused businesses, people do it all the time, of course, because a good salesman knows what the client wants, often before the client himself even knows what he wants. See? And is there ready to offer it to him. And why does the salesman know this? Because he's thought about it. And if he hasn't thought about it, he's figured out a way to gameplay it somehow. If you're living an online, if you're trying to online date, the smartest thing you can do is to set up an account as a girl. And you can do multiple accounts because I used Andrea's pictures and she's hot. And she's fucking hot. She's, 1 meter 75, maybe, maybe 55 kilos. Not more than that. 53 kilos, maybe. She was hot. Her face was, her face was always iffy for me, but she had a body. Holy shit. I put that on, got all kinds of attention, but I also put on a second account where I had a homely girl, not ugly, just homely, plain. Got a lot of responses from that too, you know, and that was interesting because they were different responses, different approach, much more relaxed. See, the homely girl made the guys feel more relaxed. There were fewer "what's up" messages and a lot more "hi, how's it going? You seem like a nice person," that kind of thing. See? Yeah, of course, the hot girl intimidates guys, so they go with the "what's up" to protect their ego. But the homely girl, the guys are more relaxed. They seem like, oh, she seemed like a nice person, like an easygoing. And you see the difference, you see? And once you start seeing enough messages, you start to see what actually works. And so for me to tell you what works is not going to help you. You should do it. You go get a set of pictures of girl, and it'll take you 5 minutes. Okay. Just Google, homely girl, and I'm sure you'll come up with a whole bunch of girls. Do an account of a homely girl and do an account of a hot girl and run them for a week on any fucking site. Doesn't matter. And see what responses you get. And what'll happen is that you, as a guy, since you're running these accounts, you'll feel very, ownership of the accounts because you do own them after all, right? And what'll happen is that you will naturally put yourself in the position of the fictitious girl and you'll start responding to the messages. Sometimes you'll respond to them very positively and sometimes very negatively. And that will teach you what works and what doesn't online. You apply those rules online and you'll see success. And the thing is, I did it and I did see success, a lot of success. And it was remarkable. It was truly remarkable. Mhm. Yeah. And this makes complete sense because what's happening is that you are seeing what works on you and you're just turning it around and projecting it out to prospects online. And of course, it's going to work. See? So do that. Now, the other thing, try multiple standard DMs. Don't, you know, write something original for every fucking chick. Yeah, every prospect online. See? No, that's stupid. You know, figure something short and pithy that works. When you set up a girl's account and some guy sends you some message that catches your eye and that works, use it. Why the fuck not? Who the fuck is gonna know? Huh? Perhaps that guy has sent it off to some girl that you also send it off to, and she calls you out on it. Who gives a fuck? If you're sending DMs to 100 different girls on OkCupid, it doesn't matter if one calls you out on it. Who gives a fuck? Is she gonna tell all the other 99? No, she's never gonna have any contact with the other 99 ever. And the other 99 are gonna have no fucking idea and they'll find it charming. If you running a female account got a message that you found charming, then more likely than not, other women that you send it to are going to find it charming. You see my point? Yeah. So don't feel afraid. Plagiarizing DMs. What the copyright police is going to show up and arrest you? Somebody from the Library of Congress is going to knock on your door and say, Yeah, Mr. Smith here. We discovered that you stole some DMs and plagiarized somebody on OKCupid. What the fuck? Come on. Huh? Come on. Yeah, it's never going to fucking happen. So don't worry about it. Okay? Okay. Now, the other thing that's important about online dating is figuring out which sites work best for you. See, like I've tried OKCupid with my actual face, and the best pictures I could find didn't work at all. See, not OKCupid. Sorry, I meant Tinder. Tinder, it did not work for me at all. I lied about my age. I used my best pictures that I took, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I'm not photogenic. Simple as that. Tinder is not going to work for me ever. Okay. I tried this years ago, by the way. Tinder is just not a site that works for me. Other sites do. Okay, Cupid, Hinge, stuff like that. So what you have to figure out are the sites that work for you and focus on those sites. See? Now, of course, if you set up a bunch of accounts on a bunch of different sites and you run at least two accounts in your for you that are A B, so you can test out what works, and you have two accounts for women, the hot women, the hot girl, the hot fictitious girl, of course, and the homely fictitious girl, and you run them and you see what messages you get and you see what works and you turn that around and use it on women, after a week or two, you'll be able to figure out, this side works for me and this side does not work for me. Tinder works for me, for perhaps for you it works, and OkCupid does not, or vice versa. You see my point. See, this is marketing. This is what you're doing. You're marketing, online marketing. Okay, you got to think of it like that. You're not building any kind of fucking relationships. No, you're going for prospects. You're going for possibilities. Okay. These are leads like in the sales department leads. Okay. So you got to think of it in those terms. Don't think of it in terms of actually making any kind of human connection. Because you see, women don't view it as a place to make any actual human connection. The only time you make actual human connection is when you meet the person in person. You got them right in front of you. That's when you have an actual human interaction. Before that, online, it means nothing. Understand that. Okay? It's so important to understand that because meeting online is just a quick and easy way to have a lot of prospects that you still have to filter through in real life. Okay? But it doesn't mean anything. Online is very useful for maintaining relationships. You know it. You had some friend back in high school you haven't seen in years, and then you stumble across them online. Hey, how's it going? And you keep up. You send a little DM on Twitter or whatever platform. Every once in a while to keep up and just shoot the shit or whatever. Right? Maybe you have a WhatsApp group with a bunch of old high school friends. Right? It's a great way to easily maintain old relationships. Sure, but in terms of establishing new ones, it's very useful, but at the same time, ephemeral. It doesn't mean anything. The relationships that you have do not mean anything and don't allow them to mean anything, not until you have met them in real life. If you put any kind of emotional weight in any profile, you're falling for the trap of one-itis. Because like I said, I've been a lot. Okay, some girl on OK Cupid, I remember. She was gorgeous, or no, I mean she was very, very attractive. Yes, but she was attractive in a way that rang my bells. Okay, because we all have a certain type, right? Um, and my type is very simple: blue eyes, brown hair, pale skin. Pale, but sort of like a little bit tinted. I actually prefer them a little bit tinted, but anyway. Um, I'll just tell you, it doesn't matter. Rachel Cook is my type. She's some, nude model. Okay, she's been on Playboy and stuff like that. She's my type. I think that she is just hot as blazes, right? And I don't give a fuck. I've never met her. I never will meet her. I have no idea what kind of person she is, but physically, she's the one that rings my bells. Okay. And girls like that. blue eyes, nice body, brown hair, easygoing attitude. That's the kind of girl that does it for me every time. And they're my fucking kryptonite. Okay. I met some girl like that on OK Twitter, OK Cupid rather. And even though I was deliberately doing this as an experiment, I started like, you know, getting a little antsy because I got a response because I used some guy's original DM, which is very amusing, and I forgot what it was. And I used it on her, and of course, it got a reaction from her. Got a reaction. I remember doing the metrics. That particular line got a reaction 55% of the time, which is astronomical. Okay, because it was a good line. I wish I could remember what the fuck the line was, but yeah. Anyway, 55% of the time that I sent it as a first DM, I got a response. If only like a lol response, right? And yeah, but you see, that line, I could never have come up with it. I forgot what the line was. I never would have come up with it myself. I had to steal it from some guy who used it on my fake female profile. But anyway, I used it on some girl on OkCupid. She was really hot. She kind of looked like Rachel Cook, right? And she looked in the pictures, at least she had like a great body, and 23, 22, something like that, totally bangable, totally hot, right? And I got a response from her, and I played it cool because, of course, you don't want to respond immediately. You want to take your time. And the thing that happened was that I started obsessing about her. Just one interaction with her. I'd send a message, and she responded, opening the door to more communication. And I started obsessing about her because the girl, her pictures, not her, ticked my boxes. See, and that's the danger of it. That's the danger of online dating, that you start to obsess about somebody and you don't know her. You just see some pictures of her, okay? And so you have to be very careful never to fall into one-nightis online, okay? I mean, it's bad enough when you do it with a person in real life, but online it's even worse because it's literally an illusion. Mhm. And so the way to avoid it is with numbers. When you go out and get in touch with prospects online, you know, 5, 10, no, 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 son. 100. 200 is better. And 300 best of all. Just ring that fucking bell until, your hand falls off. You know what I'm saying? Because you see, the more prospects you reach out to, you blast out, mhm, the more chances you're going to get something. See? Because it's a law, it's a law of numbers. The more you reach out, the more likelihood something comes back. And so, of course, what you do, what's smart is, see, suppose for the sake of argument, you're in Texas, you're in Dallas, Texas. Okay. Okay. So you set up, I mean, you are actually in Dallas, Texas, and you want to meet women actually in the Dallas Fort Worth area, right? Okay. So what you do is you set up an AB account with your actual name and you set it in Massachusetts. You're not in Massachusetts, of course. But you set up these AB accounts in Massachusetts, and you set up your female account, the hot woman fake female account, and the homely woman or not so hot looking female account. You set them up in what you call it in Massachusetts or Florida. Or it doesn't matter. Just away from you. Okay. And you set up these 4 accounts. But what's important is that your AB accounts are not in Texas. They are in Massachusetts or Florida or California, wherever the fuck. And what you do is, see, with the female accounts, you see the good messages, the good initial openers, see, and you figure out what works. Okay. Because if you get your peaked interest, then you know that that is going to be working. Okay. And so you write down these lines. And then what you do is you test them out with your AB account that's in Massachusetts. Okay. And here is the key trick that is going to improve your performances immeasurably. You see, when you get a good, cute message that was sent to the homely girl, mm, like some line that really catches your attention, but it was sent to the homely girl, and of course the line is not rude. On the contrary, it's amusing or eye catching, or it just cheers you up, right? You're imagining yourself like a homely girl, and you get this message, and it really like cheers you up. Okay, that message you send it to the hot women, and the hot women will be all over you. Yeah, and if you're not sure, and the reason you put your AB account in your own actual in Massachusetts is that you try it out like out of state, and you try out these lines, and you see what works, the approach that works with these random women, and you do it with a limited number, like 15 or 20 prospects. Okay. I mean, you don't do a blast, okay, out in Massachusetts. What's the point? You don't make that much effort. You just want to see what more or less works and what doesn't. Okay. And then what you do is that once you have like a firm grip on the lines that work in Massachusetts, you take that and you do it in Dallas for real for you, and your percentages are going to be astronomical. Okay. If you, I don't know the data because it's not my business, but just fooling around with it. Um, I was in Amsterdam when I did it. I had a lot of free time on my hands when I did it, and I did it there, and I got all kinds of responses. I mean, all kinds of responses. And what worked the best were those cute messages that were sent to the homely girl. I flipped them around and sent them to the hot girls. They always responded. They always thought it was charming because, of course, the guy sending the message to the homely girl, to your fake homely girl account, right? He's trying to be cute and nice and approachable, and the hot girls who are approached by insecure guys who are like, "What's up?" or guys who want to show off and flash off how much money they got so that will impress the hot girl, right? They get this cute message and they're like all over it because they think it's adorable, and they respond. You see? And so that's how you work the online dating thing. And online dating is great, but the whole point of online dating is to meet somebody in real life. And that's the key issue. You can't lie online. No, of course not, because you're going to meet the person. Okay. So you can't have a fake picture. You can't say that you're no, you're 6'2" when you're actually 5 foot nothing. No, you got to tell the truth. Okay. You can A/B test out of state, right? And you can research the lines that work by using these fake female accounts. You can do all that. But once you go out and try to meet people online in your area, you got to tell the truth. You got to tell them, or more or less accurate. You can't like I said, say that you're 6'2" and it turns out you're 5 foot nothing, because it's going to blow up in your face. Okay. Because ultimately the whole point is to meet somebody IRL. And the other thing that you discover is that insofar as online dating is concerned, you don't want endless chat. By the second message you are sending, you want to be telling the girl, when are we meeting? When are we meeting? We can meet this day or that day. When are you free? Of course, you don't say, I can meet Wednesday, Thursday. You always say, I'm free this week. When do you want to meet? See, open ended, and she gets to decide. You see? But you always want to be aiming for an IRL meeting. If you're not meeting IRL, then it's a waste of time. It's just wanking. Okay. And, if somebody is just wasting your time, cut them out. And you'd be surprised, by the way, a lot of the female profiles are guys who are getting their rocks off. And you can sort of like tell because of the language. And you might think I'm paranoid, but I kind of like sussed it out. Okay. Yeah. And there are a lot of trannies. And they usually kind of like hide the fact that they're transsexuals, and their pictures are such that, look, any guy can be made to look like a girl with the right makeup and the right camera angle. Okay, so if you get fooled by a tranny, don't take it personal. Don't think that it's some failure of you, or that you're actually gay or some shit like that, or you actually want to be with trannies. No, like any man, no matter how masculine, with the right makeup, the right angle, it will look like a woman, and potentially an attractive woman. Okay. So if you get fooled, don't worry about it. But there are a lot. There are a disproportionate number on dating sites. And yeah, you'll know by the third time. And as soon as you know, just block them, just cut them out because it's pointless. What the fuck are you going to do with some tranny? Okay. I said, I told you guys, have as much sex as you want and meet different people, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, don't fuck a tranny. Okay. Or, well, look, I'm not going to tell you who to fuck. Okay. But I personally would not fuck a tranny. That's me. Okay. So anyway, um, yeah, that's online. Okay. Now, IRL dating. If you meet a prospect IRL, you will have a greater impact on her to the degree that there are less distractions. Now, this is really obvious, but you'd be surprised. Like I said earlier, a lot of guys try to meet girls at clubs, loud clubs with loud music, at raves, at parties, big parties with a lot of loud music and dancing. They try to meet people there. It's a waste of fucking time. It's a waste of time. Why? It's not even because there are a lot of other guys and therefore a lot of other competition. No. The problem is the distraction. It's the noise, the lights, the fact that it's dark and so you have to sort of like pay attention to where you're going and you can't quite pay that much attention to the guy talking to you. And there are so many guys talking to you, if you're a girl, of course, that it's sort of like, who cares? It's just noise. It's just attention. And girls love these loud parties, these clubs, sure, because they are awash in attention from men, but they don't really have to focus on any one man in particular. You see? Because all of these men are giving them attention, giving them drinks, talking to them, telling them some story, and they hear some story from one guy. Oh, that's really interesting, and she just gets grabbed by her girlfriend and dragged off somewhere else, and she never sees that guy ever again. And she's talking later to some other guy. And for the girl, from the point of view of the girl, this is so much fun. All of this attention, the music, the lights, everything, and for a guy, it's a disaster. He talks to some girl, talks and talks and talks to some girl, and the girl's girlfriend grabs her, drags her off somewhere else, and he never sees her again. And all that talk and bullshit he said meant nothing and had no effect and no impact. And maybe he chases after her, some hot young thing, right? But she's just so overwhelmed by the lights and the music and the attention, and she dances. You know, she doesn't even see the guy. He rather has no impact on her psyche whatsoever. So why would you, as a guy, go to a club, a loud bar, a big party? uh, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love clubbing when I've got a girlfriend. Fuck yeah, it's great. You know, when I got a girlfriend, I mean, somebody I've been dating, I don't know, a month, 2 months, something like that. I go to some club, right? Whatever club, yeah, spend money and shit like that, and get a nice table, and I don't know, slip $50, $100 to the door guy, another, couple of hundred to the bottle girl, and all of a sudden we got a nice table and we got some booze coming our way and having a nice time with my girlfriend, right? It's all kinds of fun. And we go dancing and we talk, shoot the shit, and go and maybe, smoke some dope and maybe do a little coke. And, it's all kinds of fun. It's fucking A fun, you know? And we're like dancing and having a good time. And what are we talking about? We're not talking about fucking shit. We're talking about whatever stupid fucking shit you talk about in the club, right? Am I trying to seduce my girlfriend? No, why would I bother? She's my girlfriend, right? I'm gonna bang her that night anyway. Yeah. And what's the point of it then? It's the sensory experience. I enjoy the sensory experience of a club, but it's a sensory experience. It is not a social experience. The notion that I can go to a club and interact with other people, that is simply insane. I mean, have you ever been to a club? Have you ever been to a loud bar or a loud restaurant? I mean, a loud restaurant even, you can interact with somebody. You can't. Huh? And so, what do you do if you're trying to meet somebody? There, you're an idiot. If you're taking your girlfriend and perhaps with some other couples who are friends, I mean, look, the best way to go to a club, this is the best way. You go three couples, you know, three man woman couples, no gay couples, right? Three couples who not necessarily the same ages, but it's important that the women be of more or less the same attractiveness status. Okay. And you got to have money. You go to a club, 6 people, you're going to go through a couple thousand, no problem, in any kind of decent city. Okay. Without breaking a sweat, right? What's important is that you go three women, the three women have to be friendly, okay, with each other. Mhm. Maybe they're friends, or maybe they're just not that friends, but they like each other enough. Okay, you don't want to go where two of the women say don't like each other for whatever fucking reason. That's just boring, right? So you go three couples, and you go, and you're going to have a sensory experience. You're not going to remember a single thing of any of the conversations you had because none of the conversations are going to matter. You're just there for the lights, the music, the heat, the dancing. That's what you're there for. Okay. You're not there for a nice conversation. So, you who are single, who go to a club, you're wasting your time. And I have no idea why so many young men go to clubs and think that they will succeed. You're setting yourself up for failure. Huh? You're never going to succeed because, from the point of view of the girl, so much cool shit is happening all around that she's not going to focus on you. She's just not. I think it might have to do with the fact that when we're all young, when we're all like 13, 14, we go to these parties at somebody's house, in high school or junior high, really. And we go to somebody's house and there are a lot of nicks and crannies and the music is loud, but we wind up talking to some nice girl. And we think that the same thing is going to apply when we're older, but it doesn't apply when we're older. See, because that nice girl, what was going on, she was hiding away because she was feeling very insecure because she was still very young. But that very shy girl, she grows up a little bit, gets a little bit more confidence. She's not going to want to be like hidden away in some nook or cranny of the club. No, she's going to be out there dancing and having a good time because she's going to recognize the utility of a club. And the utility of a club is to provide the sensory experience of music, of dancing. I mean, the physical exercise of dancing, all of that good shit. Okay. Uh, and so you as a single guy, you're going to get nowhere. Okay? So you have to go where there isn't this sensory overload. And where is that? A museum, a church, an art gallery. And you think I'm kidding. You have no idea how many women I picked up in New York by going to the museum. It didn't matter which museum, Natural History Museum, the MoMA, whatever the fuck. I just wander around, I wander around like in an afternoon, say, looking at the pretty pictures, and there's some lone girl there. And what's the lone girl going to look like? Well, surprisingly, that she's probably going to be cute, hmm, because the cute girls are the ones who feel most insecure about their brains, and so they're the ones who go to museums, self-consciously go to museums because they want to show, if only to themselves, that they're not stupid, that they're smart, and they can appreciate art and culture and shit like that. So you'd be surprised how many cute girls are at the museum because of that, you know? And so you slide up to them, and she's looking at some painting and you stand there looking at the same painting. It doesn't matter what the fuck the painting is, right? And, you've got some education, you got some fucking brains, and what do? You say something that's more or less on point, slightly controversial perhaps, but more or less on point and on target as to that particular painting, you know? And before you know it, you're talking to her, and before you know it, you're in the cafeteria or the restaurant of the museum, having a cup of coffee and some biscotti or whatever the fuck. And before you know it, you're swapping phone numbers after you've had like a lot of laughs and you've laughed about this and maybe wandered around the museum. Maybe you come across a painting that genuinely moves you. And of course, The smart thing is never to try to fake that stuff. The smart thing is that if a painting genuinely moves you either to positive or negative, could be that you look at a painting and you fucking hate it. Well, or you look at a painting and love it. It's actually better for you to comment on a painting that you love. If you comment on a painting you love and describe why you like it so much, that chick is gonna get, I mean, she's gonna get wet between the legs. Fuck yeah. Yeah. Chicks love that shit. Huh? They absolutely eat that shit up. I don't know why, but they do. You know? When, yeah, I remember one time I talked about a painting called "The Execution of the Lady Jane Grey." It was at the Louvre at the time. It was on loan, and I talked about it one time to some girl. Okay, she banged her that night. Mhm. Because it really moved me. It's a painting um, that really, really moved me. The Execution of the Lady Jane Grey. Mhm. And yeah, women find it very attractive when a guy finds some art profoundly moving. I don't know why, but it's the way it is. I've noticed that in all ages, by the way, in all ages. I mean, older women, young women in their early 20s, they all find it very seductive when a guy says how much a painting or a work of art moved them. And of course, he's genuine. He's not lying. And the thing is also, um, I've never lied about that kind of stuff because there's lots of art that moves me that I find very intense. Um, I suspect that women have some sort of sixth sense about it as to whether you're lying or not. And I've never lied about that kind of shit. I don't know what the reaction would be if I did lie. But anyway, the point. IRL, you go to a quiet place, a museum, a church. You go to some European city, lots of these churches have tours, right? You take a tour. You'd be surprised. You'll run into lots of single girls, lots of them, and quality women. Because, of course, who's going to go to a museum? Who's going to go to an art gallery? Who's going to go to a church, to see the beautiful icons and shit? Is it going to be some trashy slut whore from God knows where who doesn't know how to rub two sticks together to make some fire? No, it's going to be some educated girl, you know. Um, Educated girl, that means that she comes from a good family, okay, or at least a family that taught her something, and therefore, more likely than not, if she came from a good family, she's not going to be a fucking whore. Yeah, she's not. Yeah, a girl who comes from a decent family that educated her enough to know about art galleries and museums and churches, and for her to appreciate it enough, probably taught her enough about morals and keeping her legs shut that she's a decent person. Okay? See, all of this has reasons to it. See, think of it. I mean, think of it clearly, honestly. Huh? A girl who goes to a museum is going to be less promiscuous because of the educational background that she has. It's pretty obvious. Hmm? Okay, so you go to quiet places. Now, IRL meetings, you want to meet more prospects, right? Join a club, a church, or any group if you see a lot of prospects, i.e., women, with a low proportion of competition. Okay, I was in London. Uh, well, doesn't matter. I'll just tell you. I joined this yoga club. I fucking hated yoga. I mean, years ago in college, I did Tai Chi. I fucking hated Tai Chi. I got stressed out by it because the slow movements and all that shit, it just stressed me out. Okay. And I did like 3 classes and I quit that shit because I couldn't stand it. Right. But anyway, in 2017, 2018, right, I joined a yoga class that was near my place. I was living in Notting Hill in London. And I joined this yoga class and I went there in the middle of the day or 10 in the morning, right? And who was there? Oh, rich single girls who were living off daddy's credit card, or these rich older ladies. Okay, guys, not a one. Not even gay guys. No guys. Only girls. I was the only guy. Mhm. And I did the yoga shit, and I fucking hated it. Okay, because it really got on my nerves. Because I don't like activity that's slow, physical activity that's slow, and yoga is slow and stretching and all this bullshit. And I hated it. But I was willing to put up with it because I made a lot of trim. Fuck yeah, in the yoga class. And think what it was. It was very quiet, okay? Um, very calm, no distractions, right? And you become very aware very quickly of all the people in the yoga class because you don't have any distractions, right? And you're breathing in and you're following the lessons, and it's very soothing and relaxing, okay? So it's very natural after the class that people turn to one another and say, "Oh, that was so lovely," because it's a form of meditation. That was so lovely, so this, that, the other, and before you know it, you're like, "Let's go grab a cup of tea at the place down the street here or next door to the yoga class." And before you know it, there you go. But you see my point. You gotta be imaginative about this shit. See? If I'd gone to the evening class, there probably would have been a lot more guys. I go to the 10 a.m. class, and there are older ladies, but not that many of them. See? Because not that many older ladies really want to do yoga. They want to do other shit, or they want to go shopping or get their hair done, right? But a lot of young girls between like 19 and 27, 28. Well, a few of them were older actually, and those were kind of embarrassing because those were I'm remembering now there was like a couple who were like in their early 30s, and they're like their window of opportunity is rapidly closing, and they're still living off of their daddy's credit card. It's kind of embarrassing, but anyway, the point. See, you go to places where there's going to be a low proportion of competition, and there'll be a lot of prospects, and it's calm. And I cannot emphasize this enough because you see, um, the telephone, the smartphone, has all of this input to women's brains and hitting that dopamine receptor relentlessly. Okay, a club does the same thing. See, so in those environments, one online, one in real life, but the same thing, the woman is so distracted that you're going to get nowhere with her. That's why with online dating, you send out a mass mailing of 100, 200, 300 DMs after you've tested them out of town, as it were, right? And that's what you do online. But IRL, you go to the place where it's calm, few distractions, because then you become the only distraction that she has and she pays attention to you. And that's how you meet girls in places like museums or art galleries. The whole art scene, Jesus Christ, that's a fucking gold mine. That's where you want to be. You want to be in the art scene of your local city because you will meet very good quality women, very good quality women. And they're quality women, upscale women, and they're looking to get married. Because here's something else too. You see, for the most part, this is not a universal rule, but it's quite noticeable. For the most part, the women who want to get married young are upscale women or low scale women, i.e., working class and working poor women. It's the middle classes and the upper middle classes who want to be professional and have a career, see, because they've been brainwashed, because they think that that's the way to advance socially. See, low class women, I'm talking about humble women. I'm not talking about whores, okay? Because just because somebody is of humble origins does not mean that they are morally disreputable, okay? Nor does it mean that they are paradigms of moral virtue either. But I'm simply defining or describing or pointing to women of humble origins. They tend to value children, usually because since they are of humble origins, they had to deal with children. They had to look after younger siblings or cousins or whatever because there was nobody else around. And so she, as a teenager, like a 13, 15, 17-year-old girl, had to look after and seriously look after some cousin or sibling or whomever, feed him and change diapers and all the rest of it. And because of that experience, they like children and they would like children of their own. See? Whereas middle class women don't have that. Because what happens is that the mother of the cousin or niece or nephew or sibling Well, the upscale mother will just hire a nanny or send the kid to some sort of daycare. So the teenage girl of the middle class and upper middle class will have never had that experience with children, small children. And so she won't have any interest in having her own because she doesn't know the value of it. You see? And paradoxically, the upscale women, the really upscale women, well, they'll have the experience of their own mothers who married young because they didn't need to work. They didn't want to work. They wanted to be maintained. They wanted to marry a rich husband and live a rich and happy life and have a bunch of kids, and that's that. See? So paradoxically, it's the very upscale women and the very humble women who are looking for husbands, for fathers of their children at a relatively young age, relatively young, say 20, 22, 24. I mean, they want to get married for real. That's quite apart from, say, like Eastern European women. I mean, here in Ukraine, a girl who's 26, she's over the hill, you know? I mean, most girls here, they're thinking, at 20, 23, 25, they're like, tick tock, I want to get married now, kind of thing. Even more so in Belarus, which is poor. And so, yeah. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is that there's a class component. But you meet the right woman in these quiet places, like a church, like a club. Another place is a bridge club. Well, no, that's wrong, because bridge clubs are older people. But anyway, the point, um, you want to go where there's no competition, and it's easy to find that once you think about where women would want to go, but men don't, and you go where the women are. See? Okay. Uh, the other thing you want to do in IRL dating, and this is, look, all of this stuff that I'm telling you, by the way, it applies to every age. Okay, you can be any age and doing this. Okay, it just depends for you to focus on who you are and figuring that out and what your needs are. Effective dating. Understand the utility of the prospects, and therefore what utility you seek to gain from dealing with all these prospects. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Now, practice meeting prospects on the street. This is a key issue. Uh, every day, without exception, go to places where you'll come across a target demographic. The target demographic depending on who you are and what your needs are at this time. Okay. And force yourself to cold approach prospects until you have succeeded. Mhm. This seems very daunting, but once you get into the swing of it, you'll find it surprisingly easy. It's as simple as that. You just go to where a lot of your target demo is going to be, more or less. And whenever you see somebody that you figure, yeah, she'd probably be like a good prospect, you just roll up to her and start chatting to her. And what'll happen is that at first you're going to crash and burn, and it's going to be really fucking embarrassing. And it's going to be embarrassing for a long time. I'm talking 20, 30, 40 approaches. But you see, I once, from Richard Cooper, as a matter of fact, he told me something really cool, like a good idea. See, you're trying to jump a 10-foot ditch, mm, and and there's water in the ditch, a lot of water. Okay, and it's 10 feet. Right? So you jump the first time, and you jump 5 feet, and you go right into the water. You failed, right? You jump a second time, and you jump 6 feet, and you failed, and you fall into the water. And you keep on jumping, you keep on jumping, and you keep on failing. You fail and you fail and you fail and you fail until finally, after like the 20th jump or 30th jump, you jump the 10 feet and you get to the other side and you're not wet. And then you do it again, and lo and behold, you make it again and you're not wet. And you keep on jumping, and maybe say, like, I don't know, 5% of the time, you don't quite make the 10 feet and you fail. Mhm. Or perhaps it's more, maybe it's 15% of the time. See, but you're still succeeding 85% of the time. You see my point? See, when you do cold approaches to prospects on the street, the first 20, 30, 40 times is going to be failures. And then you'll finally hit the success. And then after that, it'll be easier because you'll understand. But the key thing that must be understood is adaptation. Your ability to adapt and to self-scrutinize and to figure out what is working and what is not. Because that's what adaptation is all about. Adaptation is why you are alive, because your forefathers adapted one way or the other to the environment. And if you fail to adapt, well, then you're not going to procreate now, are you? See? So when you're cold approaching girls on the street, mhm, you have to do it again and again and again, no matter the humiliation. And you always have to remember what you said, the order you said it, what facial expression you had, what facial expression did she have when you said X? When was the moment when you felt, ooh, I lost it? See? It's like fishing. You ever gone fishing, right? You take your fishing rod, you toss your hook with your little wormy on it into the water, right? And you get a bite, and you start pulling on it. You start pulling, but not too much. But there's one moment where you pull it, just a little bit too much, and oh, the fish got away. You know, yeah. You got to study yourself. You got to study yourself and adapt and fix yourself and tweak your performance. Develop bits. It's always smarter to prepare these sorts of things. Just like with DMs, you don't write original DMs for every single fucking prospect. No, with the AB profiles, self profiles that you tried out in Massachusetts, right? You figure out what works, and then you apply that to Dallas, where you're living, and you just mass mail the same fucking thing. The only thing you change is the name of the girl, and make sure you don't fuck it up. By the way, I fucked it up a bunch of times, but anyway, you do that. See, you test, and you refine and hone until it works, and eventually it will work. See, but you have to be humble in the sense of knowing that I'm not doing this right. What am I doing wrong? And trying to figure it out. And if you get a friend who's like a really good friend, somebody that you really trust, to sort of like keep an eye on you and see how you're doing so that later he can tell you, ooh, you fucked up here, then you're going to be way ahead of the game. But you see my point. You got to be humble and self-critical. The men who fail are the men who have a fixed idea and refuse to adapt. Many of these men become extremely resentful and bitter, and they don't understand that it is their failure to adapt that is keeping them from success. They have everything to be successful with women, I mean, but they they keep on using the wrong tools, the wrong approach, the wrong words, and then they blame the women. That's just dumb. Imagine this. See, there's a screw screwed into a piece of wood. Okay, it's a screw, right? A Phillips screw. The kind that's across, right? So I take this hammer and I, take the backside of the hammer to pull out a nail. And I use that to pull out the screw. And of course, it's a screw. It's not a nail. A nail has slick sides to it. So if I were to do that, the nail would come right out, right? But not with a screw. And I keep on yanking and yanking and yanking and yanking. And come on, motherfucker, come out. And finally, I just totally shatter the wood because I give it one big yank and the whole fucking wood shatters. Yeah, and the screw is out, but the wood is ruined, right? And you know what I say? I say, stupid fucking screw. That's what these guys are saying, you know? Stupid fucking women. Huh? And some of them wind up hating women. I mean, hating them with a passion because they are failing to adapt. See? What do you do when you have a screw in a piece of wood? You take a screwdriver. Huh? Or better yet, you take a drill with a screwdriver bit and make it real easy for yourself, right? It comes right out, lickety split, right? Will the nail puller part of a hammer pull out a screw? No, it won't. It'll make a big fucking mess. Of course, it's the wrong tool. You got to adapt. So many of these men refuse to adapt. So many black pillars in MGTOW refuse to adapt. You go through their catalogs, right? Their boards or whatever the fuck. and they refuse to change. God damn, it pisses me off. Mm. Anyway, yeah. So develop bits, adapt. Okay, I'm okay. I gotta leave in 13 minutes because if I don't, I'm gonna be locked into my office building. So I'm gonna get this last bit is the last bit, and then later the next slide is actually just the announcement of next week's webinar. So let me get through it really quick, dude. I can't believe I did 4 hours of this shit. I'm sorry about the Q&A. I'm going to set up a Q&A this week at some point just for webinar tier supporters because the webinar 2 days ago I had to postpone the questions because my voice got shot and I talked for like 3 hours and all of a sudden I just ran out of gas insofar as my voice is concerned, and now I'm coming up on 4 hours and I'm not going to have time because like I said they're closing up my office building. They're locking it up in 15 minutes, in 12 minutes. So I better get through this shit and I'm not going to be able to take questions, but I will set up a dedicated Q&A webinar this week because, it's unfair. Okay. Because I always promise you guys to do Q&A. And so, okay. So let me get through this part. How should you date? Well, you always date multiple prospects concurrently. Okay. Never date one prospect at a time. Okay. Okay, let me give you an example. So there's Mary and there's Sue and there's Jane. Those are three girls that I have. As they say in pickup world, they are in my rotation. These are plates that I'm spinning. The same basic concept. See, you want to have dating these girls simultaneously, or excuse me, concurrently. Simultaneously would mean all at the same time and place. That would be a lot of fun, but maybe they don't like it. So concurrently. You want to be dating multiple prospects concurrently. Minimum three, maximum, well, what works for me is 6, 7. Okay. But minimum three. And keep logs and notes as to where you're taking them. And don't be dumb. Don't take the girls to the same places because people will catch on, the people who work there. Okay. And it might get back to her somehow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like you have your favorite restaurant, like Pedro's or whatever the fuck, right? And you take Mary there, and then you say to yourself, "Well, I like Pedro so much, I wouldn't mind going." And then you take Sue there, and then maybe the waiter says inadvertently, "Hi, so good to see you again. Weren't you here like 2 days ago with a different girl?" You're fucked. See, so don't do that. Always lie and tell each girl that you're only dating her. Lie, you know. God gave you a voice. Use it to lie. Sure, of course you're going to lie. You're not going to tell her the fucking truth. Are you an idiot? Come on. You tell her that you're dating multiple girls, right? She's not going to like it. Okay. No girl likes it. Would you like it if some girl says, "Oh, yeah, I'm dating you and I'm fucking some other guy too"? No. Okay. Come on. Okay. Always be aware of the level on the pyramid of the prospect you are dating. Yeah, very true. See, you're dating some girl. You take her someplace, a restaurant, club, whatever the fuck. Know who she is. Hmm? Know who she is in the pyramid. Is she wife material? Is she whore material? Is she in between? Is she like that girl that you really, really like and you like fucking her, but she's not going to be anything special in your life? See? And don't pretend that she's of a higher level than she actually is. Okay? Now, the final key issue, always be aware of what you want from the specific date with the specific prospect. Okay, that sounds a very tedious way of saying this. When you go on a date with a prospect, i.e., a woman, know who you are and what you want, who she is, and what she can give you, and then plan to get that. Let me give you a specific example. See, um, this is a hypothetical. You meet some girl online and you've been circling each other online, and finally your schedule, you're working and you're not able to meet, and finally you're able to meet at a coffee shop on a Monday. Okay, And from the clues that you've gotten online and your interaction, you figure, she's not a whore, but it doesn't seem so. But she's not a wife material. She's sort of like a nice girl. We'll see how it goes. You go with an open mind. Always go with an open mind. Because remember, too, online and IRL are very, very different. One is practically fantasy land, the other is reality. Okay. So it could be that you get the wrong impression online. It could be that you misinterpret. It could be all kinds of stuff. So you meet somebody, and when you meet them, you have a completely open mind. And this person could be, a whore, or she could be the mother of your children. You are open to all possibilities, and you have friendly indifference. Key concept. You are outcome independent, outcome indifferent. You are a Buddhist. Okay. Okay. So you sit there at the coffee shop, a nice coffee shop, not like a Starbucks shit, but like something, nice, where the cups of coffee cost you $10 each. But it's a nice experience, nice ambiance, and the coffees come with a little chocolate on the sauce, right? Okay, so you have a coffee there and your chocolate or whatever the fuck, and you talk to her. Before you show up there, you should be thinking to yourself, my aim in this date is to give her a good impression that I am a successful and interesting guy, but that I don't take myself seriously. And my goal is to get her to kiss me by the end of the date. You should articulate this specifically. Now, why is it so important to get a girl to kiss you on the first date? And by the way, this is a universal rule. Okay. Your goal in every first date is to get her to make out with you by the end of the date. No exception. See? Not holding hands. No, no, no. Full on making out on the first date. That's the goal every first date, no exception. See? And the sooner the better, by the way. When I was young, a lot of times I'd go on some first date and I really liked the girl. I wanted to be with her. I wanted to kiss her and fuck her and all the rest of it, right? But I thought, later. And we would talk, we would walk around the whole fucking city, man. This happened to me several times. We'd walk and talk and had a great conversation. And I never worked up the gumption to just reach over and kiss her. And of course, now because of the whole consent shit and all that crap, the whole thing you have to say, can I kiss you? Okay. But dude, you do it. You do it. You reach over, you tell her, can I kiss you? You reach over and you kiss her, and you aim to do this on the first date. No exception. Okay. The point is of this particular principle is that you want to plan out the date with specific objectives. If the first date is successful, success means that you gave a good impression, you gave the impression that you are successful socially, and you made her laugh a few times, but you didn't look like a clown or foolish. You looked like a man who was deliberately amusing her, but had control of the situation. And you kissed her by the end of the date and sent her on her way. Okay. Now, that's your target for the first date. And the second date, your target is to kiss her some more and set up to sleep with her. If not that night, then the next night. You want to go at that pace, but you want to plan what you want to do. And the thing is, see, as you have these plans as to what you want to do, you're also figuring out who she is. Because, like I said, IRL is different from online. And so, IRL, as you meet her, as you talk to her, interact with her, you get a sense of who she actually is. And you slot her in the pyramid. Is she low on the pyramid or higher up? It could be that you know that she's higher up, but you don't quite know how high she is. That's okay. You're basically saying that I know that she's at a minimum level. Maybe she's higher, but I know that she's at least at this level. At this level, i.e., above being a whore, above being a prostitute, above being just a slatternly woman, above being, some dingaling who doesn't know shit from Shinola. I mean, you're climbing the ladder, you're climbing the pyramid with her, and you've slotted her. You get to a point where you're like, she's cute, she's moral, she's decent. I don't know if she is, higher up than that, but we'll just put her here temporarily. She's not lower. Okay. She could be higher, but at this time we don't know. Okay. Now, this is, of course, different from you pretending that she's of a higher level when you know that she's not. Okay. That's very different. Okay. And it's very easy to see the difference. So I don't think that the point needs to be belabored. But you, in the first date, the second date, the third date, you figure out what level she is. And you're constantly pushing the physical contact. Because bottom line, we are animals. And the interaction between men and women ultimately is animalistic. It's sexual because it's all about reproducing, which is a physical thing. And you got to understand, and now I'm winding down this very long webinar. You got to understand that your aim is to get her into bed. That's the whole aim of it. That's the point of it. Whether this relationship becomes something long lasting or not, it's not the point. The point is, what is your objective? For each date, have an objective. Plan ahead. Okay, so next week's webinar is going to be how to have a successful date. And in this webinar, I'm going to be very, very specific as to what to do precisely and exactly on the first, second, third, and fourth dates to have a successful date. And I'm going to define what it is to be a successful date. It's going to be basically this, but the actual moment that you're there with a girl. And I will tell you what has worked for me over the years. What I have learned over the decades, quite frankly, works in order to achieve your goals with a prospect. Okay, so we've gone on. Yeah. Says, oh, I'll just put those real quick. Oops, no, not this one. This one. Says, Gonzalo, I fell in love with a whore, not the one you pay for, but trash girl. What do I do? Enjoy her and move on. Find somebody better, but don't fall for one-itis. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it. I'm sorry because I really do have to go because I am going to get locked in. Take it easy, and I'll talk to you soon.